Good afternoon and welcome to today's council meeting. Please ensure mobile phones are switched on to silent to avoid any disruption to the meeting. If the fire alarm sounds, you'll be directed where to go. Please follow instructions given by the officers. Please can I take this opportunity to remind members of the protocol to be followed at all times at this meeting, the procedures in place in relation to speaking, which must be adhered to at all times. And we're going to get on with prayers. Please stand if you can. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Please sing. Before we start, we've got a new gentleman at the side of us. New Chief Executive, everyone say hello. Hello. And on that note, Paul, please confirm any apologies.
Yes, Chairman. We have apologies received from Councillors Fox, Heslop Mullins, B. Jeffries, Norman, Pickering, Sarah Bell, Talbot, Tucker and Whitaker.
Thank you very much. And there's nobody else's hands up, so we know we're all here. Number one, declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest? If you would like to declare an interest, please press the button on your microphone and wait for me to call you to speak. Thank you. Councillor Estelle, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to declare non-pecuniary interest so far as that a number of my family members work in the adult social care department for the council.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Hammond, please.
Thank you, Chair. Just a non-pecuniary interest on item 9F about village halls. I am a member of the Village Hall Committee.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Walker, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Non-pecuniary interest in so far as I am a regular volunteer at the Brighton at Bridlington group. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other councillors that need to declare anything? Nope. Thank you. Moving on to item agenda number 2, minutes. I move that the minutes of the meeting held on 24th September 2025 be approved and signed as a correct record. Vice Chairman to second, please.
I beg to second, Chair.
Thank you. All those in favour, please, using the green, red and blue. Thank you. That is carried. Thank you. Item agenda number 3, petitions. There are no petitions. Item agenda number 4, questions by electors. There are no questions by electors. And going into communications, I have one communications for you today. And if you'd please bear with me, I'm just going to read it out. And it's for November is Care Leavers Month, a time to celebrate the resilience and achievements of young people leaving care, and to remind ourselves of the vital role we play in their journey. As corporate parents, we have a responsibility that goes beyond words. It's about action, commitment, and making sure every care experienced young person knows they are valued and supported. I am very proud to share some exciting developments. We will soon be opening a new Care Leavers Hub, a safe, welcoming space where care experienced young people can access advice, build connections, and find opportunities to thrive. This hub is more than a building. It's a symbol of our promise to stand beside them. Corporate parenting leaflets are now available for elected members, offering practical guidance on how each of us can make a difference. We're also doing a corporate parenting e-learning package. It's been developed to strengthen understanding and to prove the practice. The video which forms the e-learning will be circulated to you as soon as possible. Most importantly, the corporate parenting pledge created by our young people themselves has been created for our children in care and care leavers. This pledge is their voice and our commitment. A large version has been printed and is on display outside. If you can, please take a moment today to sign the pledge as a visible promise to care experienced young people. Remember to pick up a leaflet and keep it as a reminder of your role. Watch the video when it's released. Remember, every action you take sends a powerful message that these young people matter and that they are not alone, and that this council stands firmly behind each and every one of them. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for your unwavering support. And thank you for making a real difference in the lives of our care leavers. Together, we can help them build the future they deserve. Thank you. Item number 6, minutes of the Cabinet. I move that the minutes of the meeting listed on item 6 on the council summons be received and that the recommendations contained thereupon be approved and adopted. Vice Chairman, please.
To second, Chair.
Voting time. Thank you. That is carried. Thank you very much. Item agenda number 7, leaders update. Councillor Handel, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good afternoon. Before I go into my update, I would like to take this opportunity in welcoming our new Chief Executive to his first council meeting, Paul Bellotti. So let's ease him in gently, everybody, and Chairman, please be gentle. Further to Councillor Aitken asking this chamber at the last full council to support our young people and have them come into County Hall and shadow a councillor, the uptake has been wonderful. And I am absolutely delighted to welcome Kerry Ann, who has joined us today for this meeting. I will also be accompanied on the 18th of November at the Cabinet meeting by another young person. So Councillor Aitken, thank you for asking for this support, and I sincerely hope this is something that we can continue going forward. So I'd like to start with Pride in the Pride in Place programme. £20 million investment into Bridlington and Withensea. It's part of a broader initiative aimed at regenerating coastal communities and supporting local economies. This substantial funding is set to be directed to improving infrastructure, enhancing public amenities and boosting tourism in both towns. The investment will help create new opportunities for local residents and businesses, ensuring long-term growth and resilience for these much-loved seaside destinations. This is a huge opportunity, a real boost to our communities that have sometimes been left behind. With this funding, we can breathe new life into our towns, together with the help of residents, local businesses and community groups. We'll be able to improve our parks, our town centres and community spaces. We can support families and young people, launch new arts and support projects and make our towns even better places to live. This is a chance to work together to make a lasting positive difference for everyone in Bridlington and Withensea. And the board will have an independent chair and will work with the local community, ensuring the money is spent in the right places. Thank you. I'd like to now go on to my pothole ticker. I have to make a confession though. John Harding from Great Yorkshire Radio came to interview me, and after the interview he asked me, why don't you have a pothole ticker? This would show our residents how hard this authority does work in filling the potholes. For those of you who do not know, we now have that said ticker and our pothole reporting page, on our pothole reporting page, and I can tell you that we have filled 25,541 potholes since the 1st of November last year and up until the 29th of October this year. This is updated on a weekly basis, and as you can see, we're now on the 12th of November and it hasn't been updated since the 29th of October, so I'll be on that. This is updated, so I think it's a great idea and I would love to stand here and take the credit. So if you're listening today, John, thank you. It is a great idea. Maybe we should do the same to show people how many bins we empty. I'd now like to just briefly touch on the fair funding review. I just want to mention in the review, East Riding are currently on the losing side. However, I have, along with other councils across this country in the same situation as us, penned a letter to Rachel Reeves to object. I've lobbied our MPs, met with the Local Government Association and asked them for support. And on Sunday, I will be attending a 2-day conference with the County Council Network, and the top of my agenda is fair funding. Today, I do not have all the specifics or all of the information. However, I am happy to discuss with you once I have attended this conference and spoken both with our Cabinet Member for Finance, Councillor Wilkinson, and our 151 officer, Julian Nielsen. I just wanted this council to be made aware that as your leader, I am in the background lobbying the government for better funding for rural areas. I just want to touch on the MCA or Mayoral Combined Authority update now. As Cabinet members for Inward Investment and Transport, Councillor Tucker and I have been busy meeting staff members from this authority, Hull City Council and the Mayor's team, putting together a strategic plan for both those portfolios. I am sure Councillor Tucker will look forward to updating you on the Mayor's priorities for transport, and I can happily let you all know that the Mayor's priorities for investment are going very well. We have some irons in the fire that we are working through, and these will be put before the investment board to discuss before going to the main board for sign-off. I am sure that you can all appreciate these are business case sensitive, and I am not in a position to discuss that in a public arena. But I can assure you all, things are moving forward in a positive space, and I just ask you to watch this space. And finally from me, Christmas is around the corner, and I would just like to let you know, amongst everything else that's going on, the festival, the Beverley Festival of Christmas is the largest one-day Yuletide market in the UK. And it will be returning to us on Sunday, the 14th of December. It's an excellent event, and there is a free park and ride operating from Beverley Racecourse across the entire weekend. And we are now in panto season. Oh, yes, we are. There will be many pantos taking place, and I'm sure across the East Riding. However, I have to mention Bridlington Spa this year and Dick Whittington. Also, don't forget All Aboard for the Santa Express. Tickets are selling fast, so if you fancy either of these, or your children or your grandchildren, please check out the Spa's website. Thank you very much, everyone. I'm open to questions.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Jefferson, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm delighted with what we've just heard from our leader, this wonderful, wonderful news. As a Cabinet member for the coastal communities, I'm very disappointed to not hear about Hornsea. Hornsea is on the coast. It's a wonderful resort, and a lot of that is down to the residents who live there. I am delighted for Bridlington and, of course, for Withensea. But I am very, very disappointed for Hornsea. So my question is, when this money of £20 million, which is a lot of money to be spent over some years, was there any fight for Hornsea to be included in that, or was it literally they're the two coastal towns which need the money? Because I can assure you, we are the forgotten acres, if that's how it is. So I would hope that the leader can tell me that Hornsea was mentioned at some time, because that's what I would expect from this council. It disappoints me as a cabinet member for the whole coast. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, councillor. Let's see what she says. Councillor Hanley.
Thank you very much for your question, councillor Jefferson, and I completely agree. Hornsey isn't in there. There was a bid put forward for the coast, I'm led to believe, and the two places that were chosen were Withensea and Bridlington. And at that point, we never had a say in that. That is what came back to us. And to be fair, councillor Jefferson, I don't think anybody was more surprised that we actually won together £40 million for the coastal region. But I'm quite sure we can look at bids for Hornsey as well. It's a fantastic destination. Brilliant for tourists. There's a lot going on there. There's lots of independent shops, and I'm sure that we can have a look at something for Hornsey as well. And I don't see why we shouldn't. Thank you, councillor Jefferson.
Thank you, councillor. Councillor McMaster, please.
Thank you, Chair, and apologies to Councillor Jefferson in advance for this, but myself and colleagues in South East Holderness are very pleased to welcome the £20 million in Pride in Place funding for Withensea and the surrounding areas, which will come as a much needed boost for our town and its surrounding villages. The next stage is for the local authority and the leader to work in selecting a independent chairman for the board, or the neighbourhood board as it's called. So may I ask what the timescale is for this? Is it currently underway? Because as you can imagine, we're very keen to get the ball rolling.
Councillor Hanley, please.
Thank you, councillor McMaster, and McMaster, I'd be desperate to spend that £2 million as well well, it's 20 in total, but it's £2 million a year for the next 10 years. So I agree. I actually met with our MP, your MP yesterday, Graham Stewart, and our chief executive to discuss that. And there are talks underway to get that independent chair in as quickly as possible so we can start forming a board and getting that money out as soon as. I haven't got an actual date, councillor McMaster, but when I do, you'll be the first to know. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Councillor Walker, please.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the update, Leader, and thank you for quantifying that as £20 million for each Bridlington and Withensea. It certainly was a formula. It was an algorithm presented to us by Westminster. And that's the reason that Hornsey didn't make it. It wasn't a local decision at all. It was a Westminster decision on an algorithm which involved the indices of multiple deprivation. But my question, please, Leader, is would you agree that the most important recipients for this uplift money is the residents rather than potholes, rather than items, things? We need to find a way of uplifting the lot of these people, both Withensea and Bridlington, who have been identified by that algorithm. And if we keep our eye, I think, on the residents there and involve them as much as possible, I hope that they'll also have a representative on the neighbourhood board. And if you could confirm that, I would be delighted. Thank you.
Councillor Hanley, please.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, councillor Walker. And I can assure you things like that won't be spent on potholes. It is for the residents, it's for the community, and it's what they will be asking for. I don't know what the community of Bridlington wants, or the community within Withensea, or the community of Hornsey, or the community of anywhere else. I know what my community want, but I wouldn't dream of speaking on behalf of anybody else's. And it's actually residents will be on there along with businesses and hopefully local councillors and an independent chair. They're having it has to be an independent chair, but it's for the people of the people. Thank you, councillor Walker.
Thank you, councillor. Councillor Estelle, please.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Leader, for the update. I just want to seek assurances, really, on behalf of the whole council, given what Councillor Jefferson has raised a question with. Can you assure us that the Cabinet Member for Heritage and Coastal was briefed on this? And I know that Councillor Jefferson is on top of her brief, and it just seemed very peculiar that that question was come from Councillor Jefferson, given she is the cabinet member for Heritage and Coastal. Was she briefed on this? Has she been briefed on this subsequently, on where this allocation of money is going to be going? Because, you know, Councillor Jefferson is the cabinet member responsible, and we would all like to think that, you know, she has been fully briefed on this, given that her questioning seemed to think it wasn't. Thank you.
If you could keep it down a little bit, councillors, please. Other people are talking. Thank you. Councillor Handy, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Councillor Estelle, thank you very much for your question. As Councillor Walker alluded to, it was out of our hands. It was on the deprivation. It wasn't on your place is better than our place. It wasn't like that at all. And I'm quite sure, and I'll look at Councillor Jefferson, that she would have been briefed on the money that came. You weren't briefed, Councillor Jefferson. Well, I wasn't aware of that. So I wasn't aware of that. So that's what that would be down to the officer that should have briefed you. So, and you have had no briefing whatsoever about the coastal money.
Thank you, Councillor Jefferson. Thank you. Right. Thank you. Councillor Phoenix, please.
Can you hear me? Yeah. Yeah. I feel quite guilty, to be honest. When I found out about this, it was through the Bridlington Echo. I didn't know anything about it. So councillors were not briefed at all about it. It was a bit of a shock. So I do feel your pain. So
Councillor Phoenix, sorry, but can you get us a question to Councillor Handy, please?
Yeah, so having learnt about it via the Echo, I do understand now, and obviously Councillor Walker's just explained, that local people will be sitting on that committee. My question is about communication of all this. How are we going to ensure that we get the right people to be aware? Because we want to get local people to put their names forward. So how are we going to get that message out? Thank you.
Councillor, please.
Well, Councillor Phoenix, it appears that there's been a breakdown in communication here that I'm certainly not aware of, and I will take that forward. I can assure you, and I can assure you as well, Councillor Jefferson, that that will happen. What I will take away from this, and we do have our communication team in the room at the moment, is that we will make sure that we work with the Bridlington councillors and certainly the Withensea councillors to ensure that they are briefed before any communication goes out going forward. And if you're happy with that, we can then disseminate it in the local papers. So I hope that's all right, Councillor Phoenix. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Healing, please.
Very quickly, Anne has actually answered my question. Myself and Councillor McMaster never had a proper briefing either, and we actually based in Withensea. So we did find out about the funding.
I'm sorry, I've got to get you to a question. Sorry, thank you.
I just want assurance from Councillor Handley that she will make this known to our communication team, please. Thank you.
Councillor, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Healing. I can assure everybody in this chamber, I am belts and braces, and I will be taking this forward to our communication team without a shadow of a doubt. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. That brings us to the end of that. Councillors, when you press the button on the microphone, it's lit. We control it down here, so don't touch it again. We'll turn you on and off from this side. So once you're on, you're pressed, you're in. We'll just don't do anything else. Thank you. Right then, item number 8, portfolio holder report. Councillor Owen, the portfolio holder for adult health and adult and care, will make an oral report. You don't have to stand up, councillor, if you can't stand up. Go careful. If you feel like you need to sit down. Right, thank you. 10 minutes.
Thank you, Chairman, and fellow councillors. I would like to use my update today to inform members as to the progress following the Care Quality Commission's inspection of our adult social care and corporate approach to our duties under the Care Act. As members will be aware, the council received a judgment of inadequate. This was a huge disappointment to everyone and unexpected based on our own data and assessment of our services differing from those of the CQC judgments. The inspection was part of a new regime introduced by government through the Care Quality Commission to assess all local authorities across the country providing social care services and how they comply with their duties under the Care Act. These inspections are new and not to be confused with inspections already ongoing by the CQC inspecting our own in-house residential and extra care services, which are currently all classed as good or excellent. The inspection was based on a huge amount of data submitted to the team in advance in January 2025, followed by a 3-day on-site period by 3 inspectors in June 2025. It is fair to say that the CQC have had some capacity issues in carrying out these inspections. This was a council-wide assessment covering the corporate and leadership approach, as well as relationship with and input from our partners. Can I say that staff commitment and enthusiasm was praised with areas of good practice highlighted? However, we are determined to take a positive approach to the findings and not spend or waste time challenging them. The challenges highlighted reflect those being experienced nationally, with rising demand for services and our particular demographics, with 26% of our population over 65 and increasing, well above the national average of 19%. Also coupled with our issues of rurality and a long coastal strip. As mentioned, the outcome was disappointing, but raised no issues we weren't aware of. As I have just mentioned, it was the gap between our analysis of where we are and the judgment by the CQC, which was unexpected. Some key issues were delays in assessments, leadership with 5 DASs in 5 years, corporate focus on other priorities, issues with data and performance information. There were other issues which can be found in the report. Since the arrival of our new DAS, Kim Curry, in February, it was acknowledged that there had been a change in emphasis. It is important to note that there were no issues found in the quality of services once individuals had been assessed and were in the system, and that high-risk individuals were assessed straight away. The worries were that people who were not immediately assessed may run the risk of further deterioration awaiting their assessments. It is worth noting that the satisfaction level of those receiving care by this authority once provided are well above the national average. A transformation plan was already in place at the time of the inspection, but unfortunately, inspectors only give consideration to historic information. Our CQC recovery plan now builds on and extends the transformation plan we already had in place. Quick action was taken in advance of the publication of the report with the allocation of additional resource from the Transformation Fund. We are establishing an independently chaired board and bringing in a strategic partner to help with the plan, and additional capacity has been agreed. Support has also been sought and utilised from the LGA, who have worked with other authorities in similar positions. Our initial areas of focus are backlogs, social care practice, and commissioning. In-depth discussions have been had with civil servants advising ministers. These have been quite intense, and there was a strong fear that we may be subject to government intervention to run our services. The outcome has been that the Minister of State has been assured by what we have said, but that his decision was a very close-run thing. And we will have an independent advisor appointed by government and the Minister with a direct line to the Minister, which effectively means almost having Department of Health and Social Care on site. External scrutiny will be intense. Resources will need to be allocated, and these could be substantial. A separate scrutiny committee function is being established, hopefully, to support progress. Above all, though, members, my concerns are for our staff at all levels, who do an amazing job dealing with some of the most vulnerable members of our communities, many doing a job I couldn't do. I do not feel at all let down by any of our staff. In fact, I would go as far as saying that perhaps our understandable focus on vacancy management, not filling posts and cost saving may have had an unforeseen impact on some of our services, and lessons are to be learned. Social care services are under increasing pressures from rapidly rising demand and are often involving complex cases where high levels of support cannot just be switched off. We have had the spotlight placed on areas where we have to do better moving forward, and it will be a council-wide response across many areas. Our new DAS has already been making changes and identifying where change and resource is required. I am confident that she will have the support of the corporate leadership team and Cabinet. I ask also for the support of all members in moving forward. Your support, particularly for staff, through scrutiny and other means, will be invaluable. I see this as a real opportunity to focus on making our services ones to be even more proud of. I'm confident we can achieve that. As our results were so borderline in all cases on that boundary between inadequate and requires improvement, I am confident that this excellent council can move through requires improvement to good in one step. I'd like to just, first of all, tell everyone tomorrow a report will be going to overview management on the current position and will be updated. I suggest people either watch that on YouTube or certainly read the report, and I'm sure there'll be even further updates tomorrow from our DAS, Kim Curry, because it's a rapidly moving scene at the moment in terms of improvement moving forward. So I would, before I finish, just like to read out a couple of lines from the letter that we got from Stephen Kinnock, Secretary of State for Care. It's not a pleasant read, isn't the letter? It was addressed to Paul, our DAS, and myself as the portfolio holder. But I want to read two key sentences in his letter to us. He says, "I have noted that no concerns about the safety of individuals or communities in East Riding of Yorkshire were raised by the CQC. Thank you for helping my officials to confirm that this is the case." And finally, he says to the three of us in that case, firstly, I would like to take this opportunity to recognise the hard work of many of the staff at your authority, including yourself, as the council is taking the necessary steps to improve the discharge of its adult social care duties. I look forward to hearing positive news on your progress in the forthcoming months. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor. Right, there are a few people wanting to ask questions. There are now 5 minutes for questions. Each member may ask only one question, and it must be related to the contents of the report. Councillor Owen, you don't have to stand up if you don't want. You can answer from your chair. Okay. Thank you, Councillor Healy first, please.
Thank you, Councillor Owen. The peer review 4 years ago provided early warnings about systemic issues in adult social care and gave recommendations for stronger governance, clearer strategic direction and better performance management. Should the leadership have seen this coming?
I think it's fair to say, I mean, I've been in this portfolio role since the last election. We had signs then of some of the areas where we needed to make improvements. And as I said in my summary, I don't think there are any areas we didn't realise needed some action. I think it was the resourcing maybe of those areas and the time it took to find the resource to do that may be under question. But I don't think we were caught by surprise. I think, as I said, I mean, we had 3 inspectors for 3 days. Okay, so they were based very much on desk-based exercise of what they read and interpreted. And I think what did surprise us was probably the severity of some of their comments, which we, of course, we decided not to challenge, because what's the point? You just go down the wrong route. So we're being positive and moving forward. But I don't think there's anything we weren't aware of. Maybe the severity of their views of it weren't there, so maybe we should have been better prepared, but we were working. All we do is accelerate those areas of work and focus in on those particular areas that they've highlighted. Thank you.
Councillor Smith, please.
Thank you, Chair. Can I ask, who do you think is responsible for this gap in analysis, as you put it?
Honestly, don't know. I mean, I think what we've learned from it is, can we be better in the performance data and key indicators that we measure? Have we been measuring the right things over the last few years? I don't think we're probably alone in terms of local government in doing this, because what we had, I think, lots of focus on was our responsibilities under the Care Act, corporately and leadership-wise, that we should have been more focused on how we respond to the Care Act. I think that's a lesson we've learned, because it's something we've been successful delivering services over the years and maybe taking our eye off the ball a bit. As I say, that's one of those lessons learned. Yeah.
Councillor Cousins, please.
Thank you, Chair. My question is around the use of a strategic partner or consultant. Having had some involvement and experience of what it takes to turn around these things and the work that's ahead of us all, I'd just like to understand how any money spent on consultants has been scrutinised, that they will provide value. Often they are more obstructive than of value.
I fully share your concerns. I mean, I've been around long enough to say every time the word consultant is mentioned, everybody jumps up and down with horror, throws their arms up in the air, often for the right reasons. I think what we're talking here is more, the word consultant's misleading as it often is. It's an improvement partner. I'm not sure what the final decision is on who that will be. I suggest maybe I'd ask, we'll be able to answer that question more fully tomorrow at scrutiny. But I mean, that's one opportunity to scrutinise it. I think what was very clear for conversations I've had with Kim Curry, I mean, based on her previous experience in her role, the value to move forward really quickly in improvement is that investment in a partner that understands it and can challenge us to move forward. So I think it's a case of accelerating what otherwise might take a very long period of time. Thank you.
Councillor Coltish, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Councillor Owen, for the update. Would the portfolio holder agree with me that while we're not unique in facing national problems around demand, around complexity, and around lack of funding from central government, we are unique in that Cabinet, the executive team, officers, and all of Council are united in what matters, which is delivering for residents, and particularly those that are more vulnerable?
Thank you, Councillor Coltish. Couldn't agree more. And I mean, this will be a debate that brings out politics and toing and froing in the chamber, I know, but I think deep down we all have the best interests of our residents at heart, and also our staff, and supporting them in what will be a difficult time for them in changing practice over the months to come. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Sorry, councillors, that brings that to an end. Moving on to motion number 9, Councillor Kristen White, please.
Thanks, Chair. Without doubt, it's absolutely devastating to lose a child. Thankfully, it is not something that has happened to me, but I have seen the impact on families. My mother-in-law lost her 5-year-old son, and even 60 years later, was still attending his grave weekly and fortnightly in the winter. It is something no parent ever gets over. I suspect it is even harder when they are young, because your instinct is to protect them. When children are small, they can't always explain what hurts or tell you what is wrong. That's why knowing the symptoms is so important, otherwise the red flags can be missed. Yet tragically, this is exactly what happened to 2-year-old Layla, who died earlier this year from undiagnosed type 1 diabetes just hours after being seen by a GP. Layla had been showing clear signs. She was drinking more, extremely tired, losing weight and going to the toilet more often. All classic indicators of type 1 diabetes known as the 4Ts, which is toilet, thirsty, tired, thinner. Had a simple urine or finger prick blood test been carried out as recommended by NICE guidelines NG18, her condition could have been identified and treated. The test itself costs little than £1, but the issue isn't cost, it's awareness. Instead, Layla was diagnosed with tonsillitis and sent home, and she died in her sleep less than 16 hours later. Her parents have since launched a national campaign, Layla's Law, and a petition which I am happy to share with everyone. They are calling for routine testing for diabetes in babies, toddlers, children and young people whenever symptoms are consistent with the 4Ts. According to Diabetes UK, around 30,000 children in the UK are living with type 1 diabetes, and 3,500 are diagnosed every year. Yet many are only diagnosed once they have already developed diabetic ketoacidosis, DKA, a preventable and life-threatening emergency. This motion calls on East Riding of Yorkshire Council to support Layla's Law nationally, but also to take local action, to work with public health, schools and our local NHS partners to raise awareness of the 4Ts, so no more families in our area experience this kind of heartbreak. I have also written to the Humber and North Yorkshire Integrated Care Board asking for local data about how many children in the East Riding and Hull have presented in DKA at diagnosis. Today, I have not received a response, which is why I hope members will agree that this issue should be put forward as a scrutiny topic idea for the Healthcare and Wellbeing Overview and Scrutiny Subcommittee to consider adding to its work programme next year. If we can help even one parent recognise the signs sooner, or one GP think, could this be diabetes, then Layla's story will already have saved lives. And I hope you can all support this motion. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. To second, Councillor McMaster, please.
Thank you, Chair. Happy to second.
Thank you very much. Councillor Wilkinson, please.
Having read this motion, I was very moved. Having been one of the grandparents that have lost a grandchild at the age of 5 through childhood leukemia, through mistakes of not recognising it soon enough, this echoed an awful lot of the pain that I went through and I'm still going through. And therefore, I cannot not support this wholeheartedly. I think that every single day, the most important thing that we have in this country is our children, our future, and we need to ensure that we look after them. And for the sake of a simple test that could be done very easily, it seems appalling that it's not done now. And I think we should wholeheartedly support this, every single one of us. Thank you.
Councillor Phoenix, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, when I read this, it's heartbreaking to read, isn't it? And as you say, just a simple test, this could have been avoided. So absolutely 100% agree with you on this. And I know that everyone on our side will be voting for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Now there's no more to speak on that. Councillor call on Councillor Kristen White to close the debate, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I'll close the debate.
Thank you very much. We'll now go to the vote. Green, red, blue. Thank you. And that is carried. Thank you very much. Agenda item number 9, motions. Councillor Wilcott, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. Compulsory digital ID cards. Compulsory digital ID cards. I was amazed and appalled to learn on the government's intention to inflict such a basic erosion of our civil liberties. There's no democratic mandate for this. It was not in Labour's election manifesto. It would be compulsory. It's a classic example of the sort of big state snooping and surveillance that's so beloved of authoritarian regimes. And how sadly ironic is it that 80 years after the end of the Second World War, the government now intends to introduce the sort of totalitarian control that so many people fought and died to prevent. It's not just me that's saying this. I've been contacted by a lot of people who are not regular or instinctive users of digital technology, who wonder how they'll be expected to cope and fear the risk of hacking, spamming, and data theft. They say things like, I haven't got a phone. What am I supposed to do? Who's going to tell me? Who's going to show me? Why do I need to do it now after all these years? I don't see the point. No, nor do I. The government's rationale is that it would eliminate the black economy and thus stop illegal entry. But it's a piece of naive self-delusion. Italy, Spain, and Greece all have systems like this, and they have just the same sort of problems that we do. Then there's the risk of scope creep. How long before it would extend to health, housing, and jobs and creep into council services? A checkpoint culture where every petty official demands to see our ID card, like the Gestapo asking for an Ausweis. Then there's the cost. The London School of Economics estimate it would cost 18 billion at this time when the economy is under such straits. This country, of course, has form when it comes to expensive and ultimately abortive national database projects. You remember the NHS National IT Programme? Scrapped after 10 years at a cost of over 10 billion. The DOT shared service, which was supposed to save 57 million, but which cost the taxpayer 170 million. Or the National Offender Management System, which was abandoned after 155 million pounds had been spent. Recently, of course, we have the Post Office Horizon scandal, where faulty technology led to 900 prosecutions and 13 suicides, and only now is belatedly paying out over 270 million in compensation. Oh, and has anybody ever tried to contact the HMRC helpline? Well, good luck. I have a number now, but I'm not going to share it because it'd be against the rules. That's ridiculous. As well as the absolute cost I've mentioned, the 18 billion, let's just consider for a moment, which I think is appropriate as we start the annual budget discussion, what's called the opportunity cost. The ERC roads and pavements are in such a state of so-called managed decline that there is a 20-year repair backlog. Then we have the continued and appalling underfunding of the East Riding Council's SEND budget, which is one of the lowest per child amounts in the country. Now, Councillor Aitken may correct me, but I believe we are being shortchanged to something in the order of £17 million a year. Then we have the underfunding of the schools budget, making the East Riding budget one of the 4th worst in the country. And on top of that now, we have the impact of the so-called fair funding formula, which you are going to gallantly oppose on Sunday, which is estimated to reduce the council's budget by over £20 million a year, making the East Riding the 5th worst affected unitary authority in the country. So that's why I'm inviting fellow councillors across this chamber, please, to join together to support this motion, to ask the Chief Executive to write to the Prime Minister, urging him to abandon this costly, unnecessary, unwanted and illiberal attack on our civil liberties, which frightens many elderly and potentially vulnerable people, and which probably wouldn't work anyway. And instead to invest in badly needed funds for local government services, such as special educational needs, such as schools, and such as road repairs. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Nolan, please.
Thank you, Chair.
Jeremy's covered a number of the points that I'd written down. I certainly agree with all his comments about this being an illiberal and authoritarian measure. Like other things that Starmer's doing, it's sort of pointless, it's expensive, and it's not really relevant to the issues facing this country. It's not going to improve people's living standards. Now, I'm not necessarily against a form of ID. If there are clear benefits being portrayed in this, such as, for example, speeding up entitlement to payments and things, I could see an argument for it. But that's not the way it's come out. It's come out as a reaction to reform. It's come out as a sort of let's stop the boats and all the rest of it. Well, we all know it won't do that. Anybody else who's employed people knows that apart from people working in the black economy, anyone working in the regulated economy, you have to have a national insurance number. And as an employer, you can't just make payments without having a national insurance number. It goes through the HMRC. If you do make payments to people without a national insurance number, you'll be pursued. You're breaking the law. So it's not going to do it. What will happen is people coming over on the boats, they're not allowed to work. That's one issue. But also if they do, they'll be working in the black economy, as is going on at the moment. So it's not going to tackle the problem that's being talked about. I agree with Jeremy that we could end up with mission creep, I think they call it, where they'll start linking it to bank accounts. They'll start talking about things like facial recognition, so that we can track when people are doing. Now, I'm not saying that Labour would do that, although I do think they are authoritarian, particularly in the way they've dealt with Palestine Action, treating them as a terrorist organisation. That's all about restricting freedom of speech. And I suspect that if we had the suffragettes here today, Labour would be locking them up. That's how authoritarian they are. But my concern would be if you bring ID cards in, what happens if you get a change of government? What happens if we get a reform government? Heaven help us all. You know, how are they going to use such information? And that's a concern, that once you bring these things in, you get mission creep, and then you may end up being used in a way that you're not expecting. So I fully support and second the motion from Jeremy. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Healy, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, I'd like to fully support the motion brought by my colleague, Councillor Wilcock. And I do so with conviction, because the proposal for mandatory digital ID cards is not just a policy step, it's a fundamental threat, I think, to our values. And over the past few weeks, residents have contacted us, and I know it's a national issue, and they've contacted us not with curiosity, but with concern. They're worried about what this means for their privacy, for their freedoms, for their relationship with government. And I think they're right to be worried, because this scheme risks turning every citizen into a data point, to be tracked, to be monitored, to be catalogued, all under the guise of efficiency and security. But let's be honest, I don't think this is about making lives easier. It's about control. And once that control is handed over, it's very hard to take it back. But even if you set aside the civil liberties argument, and I don't think we should, the financial case is indefensible, as Councillor Wilcox said. Billions of pounds for a national ID system, while councils like ours are struggling to fund adult social care, struggling to fund children's services in schools, as has been alluded to, housing and environmental protection. I think we're being asked to choose between surveillance and services, between a costly illiberal project and the basic needs of our communities. Here in East Riding, more than anywhere, we know what underfunding looks like. We've seen it in our stretched social care teams. We've seen it in the CQC report, in youth services that need investment, in housing pressures, in the growing demand for mental health support. These are the areas crying out for funding, not a digitalised ID scheme that nobody asked for and few trust. How can it be right to put vast sums into a national scheme like this when local government, the part of government that is closest to people's lives, is being asked to do more with less every year? But this motion isn't just a protest, it's a call for common sense. It asks the Prime Minister to abandon this costly and unnecessary proposal and instead invest in the services that make a real difference to people's lives. We must stand up for civil liberties. We must stand up for fiscal responsibility. We must stand up for local government against costly vanity projects. And above all, we must stand up for our residents who deserve better than this. And so I ask colleagues across the chamber to support Councillor Wilcox's motion and send a clear message. Our priorities lie with people, not with pointless bureaucracy.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Sean McMaster, please.
Thank you, Chairman. And some great points already been made on this, and it really should come as no surprise that I'm fully supportive of this motion and agree with the reasoning of Councillor Wilcock in bringing this forward. And whilst it may not be something that we as councillors can directly influence, our residents are rightly concerned about it. And I've been contacted by several of my own residents about this, so it certainly warrants discussion and debate. We live, at least for now, in a liberal democracy, not a papers, please checkpoint society that digital ID potentially brings, a potential burden on the law-abiding citizens of this nation. I use the term potentially because it has yet to be made clear as to how this will be used, what it will cover, and how far a reach it will have. So far, all that's been openly discussed is what it will do to curb illegal migration. Make of that what you will. Had it been in the government's manifesto, had people voted for this, then whilst I'd still be immensely skeptical, I would accept that they would have a mandate to carry this out. We've had this debate before, 20 or so years ago, the last time mandatory ID was discussed at a huge cost. And nothing came of it. It failed. And in its current form, it must fail again. I was listening to a podcast on this very subject a few days ago, and it was described as Starmer's poll tax. It may look good on paper, but it's chaotic in practice. As alluded to, this policy is illiberal, it's costly, and greatly unfair. So I wanted to speak against the imposition of digital ID, caution against the slippery slope, as well as a device that can be used by the governments of the future to impose criteria, controls, and restrictions. We had enough of that in recent years, and I don't want to see that again anytime soon. If you surrender liberty, you open the door to authoritarianism. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Redshaw, please.
Thank you, Chair. I will forever be opposed to any form of compulsory digital ID, seeing them, as has been stated, they're an infringement on civil liberties and a step forward towards excessive state surveillance. The old argument of why not if you've got nothing to hide misses the point. Privacy is a fundamental right, not a sign of guilt. Handing the state power to track and record everyone's movement or data risks abuse, errors, and mission creep, no matter who's in charge. History shows that once such systems exist, they are rarely rolled back, and even the innocent can suffer when privacy and freedom are weakened. Digital options raise even more concerns about privacy breaches and data misuse, especially if personal information is stored on central databases. We only need to look at China, where digital ID cards undermine citizens' rights to privacy and freedom of expression. They are used to monitor and restrict movement, targeting ethnic minorities, violating their rights to equality and non-discrimination. And if you like, for the Uyghurs in China, it could be the migrants in the UK. It could be legitimate protesters in the UK. It's a slippery slope and one we don't want to go down. And I urge members to support the motion.
Thank you. Councillor Bibb, please.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Councillor Wilcock, for bringing such an excellent motion to full council, which I fully support. Mandatory ID cards are just huge overreach by this government. They're anti-British and they're unnecessary. We already have physical ID cards like driving licenses and passports, an extensive system of digital identification with a whole range of laws to support this. Proof of identity is already required to gain legal employment, claim benefits, register to vote, get a passport or open a bank account. So why waste money on another digital ID scheme that is estimated to cost 1 billion to set up and 100 million a year to run? Although that's a government estimate. I believe Councillor Wilcock thinks it will be significantly more, and I would say he's probably right on that. Surely, this money would be better spent supporting local government to fund adult social care, children's services or highways. Then let's look at the privacy issues. Is this a brick card or is it Big Brother? Should government be able to track us in every part of our lives? I think not. The government believes that mandatory identity cards will reduce illegal immigration and illegal work. Do they really think that employers who currently use illegal workers will suddenly be asking for digital ID, or illegal immigrants happy to throw their passports into the English Channel will be queuing up to get a brick card? I'm not comfortable with mandatory ID cards. I imagine that the majority of residents aren't comfortable with it. So I would like to thank Councillor Wilcock again for highlighting such an important issue. And let's hope that this government, who are pretty well known for U-turns, will also U-turn on this issue.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Gallant, please.
Thank you, Chair. Not surprisingly, I wish to oppose this motion. The rest of the motions on today's agenda concern our residents and delivering better services and support for them. This, to me, seems a particularly pointless grandstanding motion that doesn't really have anything to do with the remit of this council. For a start, the government's proposal is not for a mandatory or compulsory ID card. It will be voluntary, though those wishing to work would need to have one. So those of us who are in education or, like myself, luckily retired from the rat race, will not have to have one. Having said that, I probably would get one because it could prove useful. Because, of course, the last Conservative government introduced compulsory voter ID for elections. So it comes a bit rich from our Conservative colleagues to complain about ID cards. The vast majority of countries do now have ID cards, well over 100 of them, including all of the rest of Europe, whether inside or outside of the EU. And of course, we have had ID cards in the UK before, during World War II. I really don't see having an ID card as a threat to civil liberties. What rights would it compromise? What we've had today is a load of red herring nonsense about tracking movements, surveillance, facial recognition, Horizon scandal, HMV call line. None of these have got anything to do with the proposed ID card. For those who are concerned about Big Brother, I'm afraid that boat has sailed long ago. The NHS, Google, Amazon, Facebook, your bank, your supermarket loyalty card, and others, they know all about you. They know where you live, where you've been, what restaurant you've been to, what you buy, what you like, what you dislike. They have all your data and they use it. By comparison, the national ID card is just that, a proof of identity. So unlike Councillor Wilcox, I have not had a single resident bring this up with me, possibly because they're not concerned, or maybe because they think it's nothing to do with their local council. And just to remind older residents, of course, they do not need to have an ID card. Either way, I think this fear-mongering about Big Brother is overdone, and having a national ID scheme is long overdue and hopefully would contribute to clamping down on the employment black market, which is a huge problem and a draw factor for those coming to this country who do not have a good case for asylum. I'll be voting against this motion. Thank you.
Wrong button. Thank you, Councillor Gallant. Right. I do think, I'm going off bat a little bit, I do think you've done Councillor Healy, Councillor McMasters, Councillor Redshaw and Councillor Bibb a disservice there. They are working on behalf of their residents. Their residents have approached them and asked them or asked about their concerns about the digital ID. That's what they have all said in their talk with them. So I think that was a bit of a overstatement on your behalf, Councillor Gallant. They did ask. Councillor Cantrell, please.
Thank you, Chair. Just to add, I have not had one resident complain about ID cards to me. And right now, if you don't have a passport or a driving licence, it can be a real pain to prove who you are. Not everyone drives, not everyone travels abroad, so a lot of people don't have any proper ID. And an ID card would fix that and make life a lot easier. It would also help with everyday things like opening a bank account, applying for a job, picking up a parcel, and it could make things fairer for everyone, not just people who cannot afford a passport. Plus, our information is already stored everywhere. NHS, schools, banks, Amazon, shopping places online. So having one secure card that proves who you are doesn't really add anything new. It just makes things simpler and safer. It could also help cut down on fraud and make sure benefits and services go to the right people. And if you ever lost your passport, you'd still have something official to use as ID. So yes, ID cards would make life easier, fairer, and I really think it's time we had them.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Whittle, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, we've had quite a long debate about this, and I don't intend to prolong it much longer as far as I'm concerned. I would like to thank Councillor Wilcock for bringing this motion forward. I too feel that it is a valid motion because it impacts upon everybody. My concern is, I suppose, echoing at least partially what Councillor Redshaw was saying. A national ID card being the start of the slippery slope within which all your information is contained. Magnify that by every person who has to have one or is inclined to have one, who's requested to have one, but I think they'll have to have one. Magnify that by the number of people, and you've got a massive database there, which is just ripe for cyber criminals to crack and to exploit. Think of this government's reputation, not just Labour government, Tory government, in producing wonderful digital ideas, putting information in the cloud or in the net or wherever they want to put it, just for hostile actors to nick and use against us. Going by that track record, how can we be assured that a digital, and note it is digital, it's not a physical, or it will be physical, but it will have that digital context. Just imagine how easy it would be for this government just to make a simple mistake and open up that digital ID card to present our enemies, those who would wish to hold us to ransom, or any other hostile actor. How easy would it be to crack that and use that? Look at your big stores, Marks and Spencer's, cybercrime. Look at Jaguar Land Rover, cybercrime. I think that this, not only being an intrusion into our own civil liberties, and I have a natural tendency to object to it in any case, but it is opening the doorway, Chairman, to allowing all our information to be in one place, and that information to then be used against us. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Dimberline, please.
Thank you. I can only echo what my fellow councillors have said today. And of course, I was quite interested to listen to Councillor Gallant, and he's quite right that we are tracked with Amazon and mobile phones, and we've got passports, we've got NI numbers. But unfortunately, from my side and from my party stance, this digital ID will not be a reactive thing. It's the beginning or the thin edge of a very large wedge that's going to come, the tip of an iceberg. It will become a proactive thing. It will start to restrict what we do. It will restrict what we can buy, what we can bank with, where we can go. So it won't be in a reactive ID. It will be a proactive one. The previous government and this government today do seem hell-bent on spending and wasting colossal amounts of money, which this is just going to do. And so from my side of it, everybody's really said pretty much the same thing as me and my colleague here feel. And we all remember that last Sunday we stood and paid remembrance to the people that gave their lives for this country many, many years ago. And we all remember the veteran that was on the TV only the other morning, 100 years old. And his words were the reality and the truth that the sacrifice that they gave for our freedom, in his own words, being there on that battlefield was not worth the loss and the sacrifice. And this ID card is the thin edge of that wedge that we really don't need to see. So we will be supporting Councillor Wilcox's motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dees-Howe, please.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Wilcox is absolutely right when he says this council should view this new mandatory digital ID card with great concern. I find it hard to believe that this has got anything to do with illegal working or stopping the boats or smashing gangs. What I think it is the introduction of a new and in fact sinister era of digital authoritarianism. Some of our residents are speaking about this, and they're absolutely right to. They're concerned about the risks these cards pose to civil liberties and privacy, and they're right to have those fears. If you look at the government's website, you can see where this is going, because what it actually says is that in time, quote, these cards could be used to access services like benefits, childcare, even tax returns. And as Councillor Whistle says, can you imagine this stack of data just sitting there waiting to be hacked? It's appalling. The truth is, this is an unnecessary and costly surveillance system that will make large areas of our lives instantly trackable. I've already got 2 forms of ID. I've got a passport and a driving licence. And if that's not enough, then that's hard luck. Because like thousands and thousands of other people in this country, I would never sign up to this scheme, even if it meant to going to jail. I think there's 3 million people signed a petition already and growing. And that's why I'm going to be supporting Councillor Wilcox's motion and encouraging other members to do so. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Bertel, please.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Howard, as well, for basically saying the same as what I'm going to. I've worked with a team who push and look at this current thing where there's over 3 million people who've said they don't want it already. I myself will not comply. I will go to prison if that is the case. There's many who feel that way. So it's going to be a waste of money ultimately. There's been thousands of things being said. And even if this government managed to get it through before the end of their term, if you're naive enough to go along with it, good for you. I've seen too much of the world now to believe that. So ultimately, I will not comply. I think we should all stand up for our residents and lead by example and say we will not comply. It will then therefore be a waste of money. And then whichever government is next will remove it anyway if they have any sense, because it will just cause more unrest. So yeah, don't comply, please. And if you vote for this, then, you know, you're a boiling frog in my eyes. Thank you.
No more speakers. I call on Councillor Wilcox to close the debate, please.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to thank colleagues from around the chamber for the very many strong messages of support, for which I'm truly grateful. Just a couple of things. I don't think that standing up for our civil rights is political grandstanding. I don't think calling for increased investment in council services, which are badly needed, is political grandstanding. So I don't accept that. So with that, if the worst comes to the worst, I promise, Councillor Bertel, I will come and visit you in prison. So thank you, colleagues, for your support.
Right, to the vote then, people, please. Green, red, blue. Have you got support for a recorded vote? Right, yeah, we can go with a recorded vote. So again, green for those in favour, red for those against, blue to abstain, please. Sorry, just bear with us a second, councillors, thank you. Talk amongst yourselves quietly. Yeah, all right, that's carried, thank you. Item agenda number 9, councillor Nolan, please.
Thank you, Chair. I'll just read out the motion for the benefits of those on YouTube. I move that this council notes that some residents regularly experience obstruction of their driveways by motorists parking across their driveway or so close as to obscure sight lines whilst exiting. And recognising that while the current policy would only allow the installation of H-bars outside accesses to residents adjacent to retail outlets, which is the current policy, H-bar markings across driveways do act as a useful visual reminder to motorists. Council requests a report to Cabinet to consider whether H-bar markings could be provided at the request of residents whose driveways have been obstructed at their own cost. And that's an important part of this. Now, this is an issue which has plagued some of the residents in Hessle for many years, but I'm sure it's not only unique to Hessle, and I'm sure other councillors have the same complaint in their wards. I actually raised this last year, in July last year, and it was referred to the car parking panel. The car parking panel discussed it. There was no objections from the councillors there. The officers themselves were saying, well, it's not, it's advisory, it's not mandatory. However, there's no issues. And I'm still waiting for something to happen. So the current policy of only allowing them next to shops just fails to reflect reality. We have more vehicles on the roads, more vehicles parking on the side of roads, and we have issues like town centres, like in Hessle, where shoppers and workers park up nearby in neighbouring streets, causing obstruction. We also get a problem with schools, where parents who drive park up, will quite often park across somebody's driveway, thinking, well, I'm only going to be a short while. Now, the key here is that obstruction, of course, is a police matter. And the advice from the council when residents have asked for H-bar markings is to raise it with the police, report it on 101. But to be honest, I think the police have got bigger priorities to be dealing with than dealing with obstruction. And in any case, ticketing a car that's obstructing a driveway is just doesn't deal with a problem. It may make the motorists think again, but let's be honest, we'd rather have a situation where people are not parking across driveways because they've realised. Now, I think the council, the other argument that's come back from the council is that budgets are restricted. We used to provide H-bar markings, but we can't anymore because money's tight. Okay, but then why not charge the residents? Because if the residents want one and are willing to pay for it, we should let them do it. And I find it strange that the council won't allow residents to put H-bar markings down on the road because they'll remove them if they do. But it won't allow residents to pay for the H-bar markings. So I take the view that I think in time, the council will be forced to provide, to charge for more services beyond the basic service. My mother lives in Wiltshire Council, and they charge £75 a year for removal of garden waste. Now, I'm not suggesting that to Councillor Hand should put it in a budget, but it's not unusual for councils to charge beyond the basic service. So I see this as something the council could look at. Now, the officers to me should be bringing a proposal forward and then let members decide. And I've said cabinet, but the cabinet could easily refer it to full council to decide. What I think we don't want is a situation where it's an officer-led council. Every time you ask for something, they keep saying, no, it'll cost too much money. I would rather see a report to council by the cabinet that says, this is what it would cost if we did it. Now, one of the great things about it being an advisory, it doesn't need legal enforcement, is that it's cheaper to do it that way. Because if it's advisory, we're avoiding, like we have to do when we go down the path of putting in yellow lines, where it costs something like £5,000 legal costs to do it. This wouldn't apply to that. So I think really this is about fairness to residents. It's about dealing with the problem that we have at the moment. It enables residents to pay for the H-bar markings if they want them. And I think that will also dampen down. There's some speculation that everybody would want H-bar markings. It's not going to happen. If they have to pay for it, you'll only get people doing it where they have a problem. So I hope councillors will agree with me that this should be a matter for councillors to decide, a report go to cabinet, and for cabinet to then make a decision. Thank you.
Thank you. To second, councillor Bovell, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I fully support this motion. I would like to just read out an email that we received from one of the residents in Hesel regarding this issue. Myself and my husband live off Gisborne Road. My son attends All Saints School, and I've emailed the head teacher about my distress as well as the council. I would like to purchase a white H-bar. I am more than happy to pay for the upkeep and maintenance of the white line, so it does not come out of the council's budget. Many drives down Northam Road have white H-bars. I've been denied one as I do not live opposite or near any retail premises. However, I think this policy is ridiculous as I live opposite a school, which the traffic can be equally as busy as living near retail premises. I work until 2:30 every day. I rush home to make sure I am home for 3 p.m. as that when parents start to park around the area. I've found on numerous occasions, and when I get home, people have double parked over our double drive, forcing me to park elsewhere, which causes me distress. I've come home to find owners have left their cars to pick up their children, so I cannot even ask them to move, as they've already gone. I've also met with unhelpful attitude, as one parent said, I need to get my child, and just walked off, leaving me to find a space elsewhere. I have expressed to the officer that I am a mum, I work part-time, and I look after my mentally ill dad. I need to be able to get home and get my child on time. This stress every day does have a negative impact to my everyday life. Now, this resident fully understands that H-bars are not legally enforceable, but despite that, she still put an application into the council there for an H-bar. Now, it was refused on 2 grounds. First ground was cost, and the second ground was it was against the department's policy. Now, she has made it perfectly clear that she was happy to pay for the installation and maintenance costs of this H-bar. So I think it's time now that we review the policy. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor. Councillor Redshaw, please.
Yeah, I think we all have residents who are frustrated when facing problems trying to exit their own driveways, only to find them blocked or restricted by irresponsible parking. I've had numerous requests for H-bars turned down, and the reason is always given as one of financial constraints. Allowing H-bars to be painted across driveways at the request and at the cost of the resident is a simple practical measure that can really make a major difference, a real difference for the resident. It provides a clear visual reminder that access must be kept free, whilst giving residents greater confidence that their property rights are going to be respected. It's not about adding unnecessary bureaucracy to the council. It's about empowering residents to take actions at their own cost to protect access to their homes. I've got one resident, for example, in Northgate in Cottingham, and he's, because of the circumstances of where his driveway is concerned, he's got cars parked either way right up to his driveway, and he's trying to enter a busy thoroughfare, and he is taking his life into his hands every time he enters the road because he can't see left or right. It's one day an accident will happen unless he's in a position where we can actually put a H-bar in place. So, yeah, by supporting the measure, we send a clear message. We stand with the residents against irresponsible parking. We're willing to adopt straightforward solutions that will actually improve daily life in our communities. And I urge colleagues to support the proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Aitken, please.
Thank you very much indeed, Chair. It's an interesting one, this. I actually live on a very busy road in North Cave, and I am regularly blocked from being able to get out of my drive. I also have a number of residents that are also impacted by this same practice. But what are we talking about? We're talking about inconsiderate drivers, which is what we're talking about yet again. And unfortunately, as much as I would like to see a scattering of H-bars around the county, I don't think it's going to resolve the problem. And I really, really don't like to consider that if you can afford to put an H-bar in your driveway, then you can have one. But if you can't afford to put an H-bar in your driveway, then hard luck, you've got to put up with it. So I suggest that we actually send this to scrutiny and let them chew this over, as opposed to trying to do it in half an hour here in the chamber, and actually look at this in a much more informed way so that we can understand it. This is not my area of expertise, as everybody in the chamber knows. If you're talking about children, then I'm fairly well briefed on that. But on traffic and roads and things like that, that's not my thing. But I absolutely believe that it all comes back to courtesy and being a considerate car user. And unfortunately, I think that's where we need to be at. So I unfortunately will not be supporting this motion.
Councillor, can I put my teeth in? Can I confirm you're actually making that a motion to send it to scrutiny, or you just see how the vote goes and then go from there?
I'm happy to propose, if I can get some support in the chamber. It isn't a preconceived thought, but I am happy to propose that we ask scrutiny to investigate this further.
Have I got a seconder for that? Yeah, I've got a seconder. Right. Right, we're going to go to the vote without discussion then. Yeah. Sorry, to revert to scrutiny, sorry. So we're voting on whether we've read the goes to scrutiny what you've just said, yeah? So green for. Bear with me 2 seconds. Right, because it's we're going straight to scrutiny. There's no discussion, and it goes straight to the vote. So again, councillors would to go to scrutiny. Yeah, thank you. Right, so councillors, this is now going to scrutiny. Yeah, so it's, yeah, you've got the mover, you've got the right to attend scrutiny. That's all right, my pleasure. Absolutely my pleasure, don't worry. Right, so that's moving on. We've done that bit. Thank you all very much. Next motion, Councillor Meredith, please.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. I would like this to be scrutiny, so can I just sit back down? Thank you. I've brought this motion today, Mr. Chairman, to be put before everybody. Now, I have sat on 3, if not 4, of the scrutiny committees at this council out of a total of 5 every year for over a decade. I've chaired 2 of those and vice-chaired a 3rd. But aside from acting as a substitute on the Health and Wellbeing Overview and Scrutiny Committee, just on a couple of occasions, I've never actually been a member of that body. Now, I mention this because I hope it adds weight to my comments and it clarifies why I decided that I should be the one to submit the motion on this subject today. A dice, after all, cannot read its own spots, and so I donned what I've just described as my well-worn scrutiny cap that I hope you can all agree has helped me look at this and present something on the subject which is objective as well as focuses on action and outcomes, on delivery and progress. Now, the first point in the motion before us, Mr. Chairman, advocates for the establishment of an improvement board. Now, in the parlance of those in this chamber, what I'm suggesting is a scrutiny committee. However, it is not my intention to see this set up to exist forevermore. Nor would I like to see its remit expanded until it went from stepping on the toes of the Health and Wellbeing Overview and Scrutiny Committee to wearing its shoes. The purpose is to ensure accessibility and transparency, member oversight and involvement, and an ability to feed in experience and recommendations on the journey that all aspects of adult social care must undertake. Therefore, it is not what I would consider to be a traditional scrutiny committee by the definition as we would all understand one. It's also specifically targeted at improvement, and I've used the term improvement board to describe it as a result. This was discussed at the Overview and Management Scrutiny Committee, and I have no doubt that the Health and Wellbeing Overview and Scrutiny Committee will have elements of care services provision included in their work programme next year and every year into the future, as well as last year and every year before. However, these two committees combined make up less than a third of the total councillors sat here today in this chamber. And so I wanted to bring it to us all to make sure that this was aired in this forum. I did not want to see the Health and Wellbeing Scrutiny Committee overburdened either. A referral to this committee would see the 11 meetings it holds each year doubled. It would also mean that the 20 to 25 items that they consider each year and that they have deemed as significant when they set their work programme would either have to be scrapped or diluted to the point of, well, what's the point? Therefore, what we would be seeing, Mr. Chairman, is to see breadth take priority over depth if this approach was taken, and meaningful scrutiny would not be possible across the whole area that makes up around 80% of this council's budget, has a 10% of this council's staff involved in it, in the health and wellbeing arena. It is because of this that Councillor Owen described earlier in his portfolio update a separate scrutiny function, and he used the word being established, he used the word hopefully. I share this hope, and I hope that we agree it here and now. There is also the fact that the forms must be obeyed, and establishing a new committee requires Herculean efforts from those in our Democratic Services team, those who are often unsung but actually enable everything that we do. Supporting this motion today will provide the required endorsement from full council that can ensure this very important subject is given the priority it deserves and requires. This isn't to make sure that it isn't held up by the wheels of bureaucracy that sometimes turn slowly and sometimes backwards. I've also stressed in this motion that funding is needed to finance the provision of quality care. Councillors Handley and Wilcock have both mentioned in today's meeting the government's fair funding formula, and it is worth noting that that does focus on deprivation, but not isolation, and it is doing this at the expense of our residents. In my mind, these are one and the same thing. And spoiler alert, but I would like to thank Councillor Sean McMaster for the question he'll be raising in this meeting later today. When a carer spends half their day in a car, you need twice as many carers. It doesn't take a road scholar to work out that the cost burdens will therefore also double. We can add to this that rural areas have a disproportionate obligation. Here in the East Riding, we have a 26% pensionable population when compared with a national average of 21%. This situation is replicated across the country at authorities like ours, and so too is the lack of recognition when it comes to national funding being equitable on a per-person basis. Furthermore, reducing waiting times and improving outcomes are laudable, but speed should not be achieved if it requires the sacrifice of quality. As such, I've also noted the need for appropriate training to be paramount in the minds of those who will be undertaking this scrutiny and overseeing this improvement journey. And I stress this aspect because the last point of my motion is to note the positive comments regarding our staff. Local residents commended those who provided care as compassionate and a consistent point of contact. And I wanted to ensure that this was recognised and rightly lauded, because it is those who provide care that mean there is any value to all and to every other element of what we will all be discussing once I stop talking. And so, Mr. Chairman, I'll conclude by asking members to support this motion that I hope puts in place the mechanisms needed to bring about the required improvements, that instructs this council to seek and advocate for the funding needed to deliver the quality of provision that our residents deserve and should expect, and last but not least, ensures a transparent process so the concerns raised by the CQC can be engaged with and addressed, so that those who receive care or seek it in the future can be assured that this council will deliver. Thank you.
Thank you. To second, Councillor Bidd, please.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to second this motion and reserve the right to speak later in the debate. Thank you.
Duly noted. Thank you very much. Councillor Healy, please.
Chair, first of all, I'd like to compliment Councillor Meredith as a member of the ruling group for bringing this motion. and providing all members with a platform to speak on what is probably the most important issue we will all face in the 4-year tenure of this current council. The findings of the CQC report deserve our full attention because of what they reveal about our leadership, our culture, and our duty to the people we serve. When I talk about leadership, I don't mean the dedicated frontline staff who continue to work under immense pressure. CQC report rightly recognise their dedication, their compassion, and their resilience. These are the people who show up every day for some of the most vulnerable members of our community, often going above and beyond despite the challenges they face. They are not the problem, they are the strength we must build upon. The problem lies in the systems around them, the leadership, the governance, the strategic direction. We owe it to our staff to give them the support, the clarity, and the consistency they need to do their jobs well. But this report didn't come out of nowhere. In fact, many of its concerns echo those raised in the 2021 LGA peer review. That review was clear. Our strategic leadership lacked clarity, our governance structures were underpowered, and our elected members, whilst committed, were not sufficiently involved in shaping policy. That peer review report talked about lack of strategic clarity and ambition. The peer review team found it difficult to determine the council's strategic ambitions for adult social care. They said there was a lack of measurable outcomes, and the council was advised to improve performance tracking and data use to drive service improvements. Leadership and governance were flagged as problematic. The report warned of limited transparency and insufficient member involvement in decision-making, especially in adult social care. It noted missed opportunities for collaboration. The council was seen as not fully leveraging partnerships, including with voluntary and community sectors, which could have helped address capacity issues in adult social care. Fast forward to 2025, and the CQC has confirmed that those warnings were not heeded. Should leadership have seen this coming? Absolutely. And I think Councillor Owen in his answer earlier acknowledged some of that. It warned about early warnings about systemic issues in adult social care. It gave recommendations for stronger governance, clearer strategic direction, and better performance management. And it provided advice on improving transparency and member-led oversight. So these are actually more than just echoes of the 21 report and the 25 CQC. They are repeats. The same problems, the same warnings, and now the same consequences. The lessons of 2021 were not learned. The leadership failed to act, and that is why we now have an inadequate rating. But this is not about personal blame. It is about institutional accountability. The failings are systemic. And let us be clear, the CQC has given the council leadership a very clear warning. They say, and I quote, "We have told leaders at East Riding of Yorkshire Council where they need to improve, and we expect to see widespread improvements when we return." This is not a suggestion. It is an expectation. It is an ultimatum, and it is one we must meet. And we on this side stand ready to play our part in recognising that these improvements can only come about by the whole council working together to address the failings and transform adult social care for our residents. So we support the creation of an improvement board, and there's a little bit of confusion, Councillor Meredith, about the improvement board that's mentioned in tomorrow's paper for overview management and the scrutiny committee, but I'm sure we'll thrash that out tomorrow. We certainly support the creation of an improvement overview and scrutiny subcommittee to scrutinise the council's progress against its adult social care improvement plan, and particularly to scrutinise individual cabinet decisions as they relate to adult social care. So to conclude, the CQC has issued a clear warning. The council leaders are not meeting the standards our residents and staff deserve, and unless we act swiftly and decisively, the consequences will be profound. This is a moment of reckoning, but it's also a moment of opportunity. We must come together across political groups, across departments, to deliver the improvements that are urgently needed. Our communities and our staff are counting on us, and failure is not an option.
Thank you. Councillor Richer, please.
The recent CQC assessment made it abundantly clear we must act decisively to address waiting times and improve access to care for our residents, from the first contact with services through to the delivery of care. It's not optional, it's essential, and it will be a daunting task to address the concerns of the CQC. But let us, I think, be in no doubt, this is going to cost money. Rural delivery of adult social care is more expensive, more complex, and more resource intensive. Writing to government is essential, but we must also recognise the reality. Government may well ignore our appeals for new funding, and in fact, it's quite likely that the reverse will be true, that we're actually going to get less money in future financial years. And that will certainly add to the financial woes of the council and will likely throw serious doubt on our ability to meet a balanced budget. As mentioned in the motion, we face serious demographic pressures with 26% of our population of pensionable age compared to the 21% national average. And so the demand across the East Riding is significantly higher. It's not just a statistic, it's a lived reality for our residents and our staff, and their input, I would hope, is going to be critical to solutions that we're going to put forward. Improving access will seriously increase demand on staff and systems. It will require more investment in people, in infrastructure, and in technology. Hopefully, the transformational plan will help address some of the failings related to pressures, to processes, systems, but I think the main problem is going to be staffing is something that is simply going to have to be addressed, and that does not come cheap. As a council, we need to ask ourselves, as has been mentioned, why has it taken the CQC to point out the failings which are a clear failure of leadership, of systems and reporting structures, leaving staff effectively to manage a service that wasn't fit for purpose at the front door. As councillors, we urgently need an effective set of KPIs that reflect the true nature of performance, of productivity, and of demand management. Those have been sadly lacking. We also need answers as to why there have been 5 directors of adult social care in as many years in a department where continuity is critical. The motion is the right step. It acknowledges the crisis, it sets out the framework for improvement, and demands the financial recognition our council and our residents deserve. But unless government steps in, we face the stark reality of trying to deliver more with less, and the risk of returning an unbalanced budget looms large. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Stell, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let's call this what it is: a complete and catastrophic failure of leadership. The Care Quality Commission. It's not a laughing matter, Leader. This is what the Care Quality Commission have said in their report. And if you find it funny, then you need to read the report again, because they've rated East Riding's adult social care as inadequate across almost every area. The lowest score of any local authority in England. This isn't a blip. This is rock bottom. And the cabinet member said he could have seen it coming. The CQC found that, and I quote, too many people were facing unacceptable delays getting the support they needed, which was having a negative effect on their health. Those are not my words. Those are the words of the national regulator. And they describe a service that is failing the people it is supposed to protect. The report exposes story after story of delay and neglect. Residents waiting 2 years for white cane training. Another 45 weeks for grab rails to be fitted in their home. Hundreds of safeguarding concerns left uninvestigated. And the CQC made it crystal clear what lies behind this. Significant leadership changes over the last few years have impacted on people's access to good adult social care across the county. Now, that's polite language for chaos. Chair, this didn't happen overnight. It's the result of years of complacency and denial under this Conservative administration, and a lack of funding by consecutive Conservative governments. The Cabinet Member for Adult Social Care cannot hide behind transformation processes. They must take responsibility. Because while vulnerable residents were waiting months and years for help, the Cabinet were asleep at the wheel. The warning signs were there in the peer review. Staff were raising concerns, partners were frustrated, and still nothing changed. In fact, cost savings were introduced, and the Cabinet member said in his update earlier on that these had a material effect on the outcome of the report. Now, we're told the solution is another transformation plan. Let's be honest, that's not reform, it's damage control. Officers are already running an improvement plan. They've done that off their own back. We're already establishing a dedicated scrutiny committee to hold services to account. We don't need another board. We need accountability. We need political courage. This Conservative Council's Cabinet has failed residents, failed the elderly, failed disabled adults, failed families who turned to this council in crisis and were met with silence and waiting lists. The only people who come out of this report with credit are the frontline workers and staff who the CQC described as compassionate and consistent points of contact. They're doing their jobs with heart and professionalism, and it's time the political leadership did the same. Chair, this report is a national disgrace. The worst rated adult social care system in England, right here in the East Riding. That's what this administration has delivered. And we were all waiting for the magic word from the Cabinet member when he was giving his update. You shouldn't be there defending it. You should be there apologising for it. To every resident left waiting, to every carer left unsupported, and to every family who lost faith in this council's ability to care. Because when the national regulator says residents face unacceptable delays and that leadership instability is directly impacting care, the responsibility is clear. It lies with those at the top. And the council must stop spinning and start taking responsibility. The people of the East Riding deserve answers, not excuses, and they deserve a cabinet that leads, not one that hides. Leadership failures have consequences, and it's our residents who've paid the price for yours. They deserve an apology.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Lee, please.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Owen, in his very good update earlier on, has explained the background to this. And I would just want to add, before I make any comments about the debate so far, that this council is so well served to have Councillor Owen leading this process as a portfolio holder. He has, everybody in this room, the greatest knowledge and experience in this area. And to be frank with you, without that experience and knowledge, this process would not be developing as well as it will do, I'm sure. I am absolutely aghast by the previous speaker. The most important thing that we must do now is to benchmark the issue, work together, and for this not to become a political football. So for councillors in this chamber to start citing issues with one party or another is frankly despicable and deplorable. It should be a case of us working together to actually lead this process through to make sure that the newly established scrutiny committee monitors the process. And I would add that I chaired that committee. It was unanimously agreed that that would be a good part of the process, apart from the board that's going to drive the changes. I am so disappointed that this most serious subject is already descending into a political argy-bargy. It deserves, our residents deserves much better than that. It is not acceptable to have that type of behaviour, in my view, in this chamber. The process that's been outlined that we are going forward on at the moment has already been commended by both the LGA and indeed apparently the minister concerned, that actually we've acted swiftly and well to actually establish the process that we need to sort this issue out. Yes, there have been failings. Of course there have. We know that. But for this to become that type of debate is going to actually do a huge disservice to our residents and frankly is an embarrassment So please keep this debate civil, positive and forward thinking. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Nolan, please.
Just briefly, Chair. I sort of read through the motion that's before us today and I was fine with it until I got to the last bit, and it talks about recognising the comments of the CQC with regard to the care support service being highly regarded by local residents and staff, being described as compassionate, and commend our staff for being lauded in such a manner. Now, that is selectively quoting from the CQC report. I'm not going to repeat all the things that Councillor Stell said, but we were regarded as inadequate, I think worst performing in the country. We need to accept that. And I get concerned when we are selectively quoting a report. Earlier on today, Councillor Owen, and I have great respect for his knowledge and abilities, I think got into a bit of that, where he talked about they're only here for 3 days. Now, I suspect that if after that 3 days, they'd come back and said everything was marvellous at East Riding, we'd be all saying, oh, great, wouldn't we? We wouldn't be saying, well, it was only 3 days. We would say they got it right. And I also get concerned when there was talk about, well, we knew there was a problem, but we didn't know it was that bad. Now, that slightly concerns me, because if we knew there was a problem, why weren't we dealing with it? So I do get concerned. I'm not going to turn it into a political fight in the way that Councillor Lee is concerned that we don't do. I think collectively, I think have started off in the right way. We've accepted the report. We're going through an improvement plan, and we put some emergency funding in. That's the right response. We don't, I think, need to get into finger pointing and blame game. We need to work collectively, because fundamentally, this is about our residents. It's about us letting down the most vulnerable people in our society. And we need to take on the chin what was said in the CQC report and avoid any sort of hint that somehow we're going to water it down and come up with our own report. That's what the report says, inadequate. Let's accept it.
Councillor Cousins, please.
I make no bones about the fact that I read this motion and I was somewhat concerned that I felt that the Health and Wellbeing Scrutiny Committee was the right committee to take this scrutiny of the CQC report forward. For the sake of unanimity and decisions already made, and to give central government some comfort, I will be supporting this motion. However, I do think it's right to bring forward in the public arena that this is a result of political choices, not political choices by the leader or the cabinet member or the other portfolio holders who go out and search for money at all occasions, but political decisions made by various central governments that we've had. Any party that believes in small state, small taxation has led to this failure by underfunding local government. Any party, and it's at least two in this chamber, who have said to residents in electoral processes that they can have American-style taxation and European/Scandinavian services were being lied to. You can't. There is no fat left. We have to deal with the situation as it is, which is an underfunded and poorly administered social care for adults across the country with no proper policy and no proper funding. And it's our residents that have suffered. For me, the measure of a mature and quality society is how we look after the most vulnerable, how we support those that aren't as well off as ourselves. And at the moment, we as a country seem to be failing. And unfortunately, that's manifested in this report, showing how we're failing as a council.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Owen, please.
Yes, thanks, Chair. I'm not going to say a lot. I'd like to say, to start with, Councillor Healy set off, I thought, with a very sensible debate. I couldn't argue with some of the points he was putting, and totally agree with it. And I think most of the debate since then has been positive, collective, now responsibilities moving forward. I just want to point out, hindsight's always a wonderful thing. You know, suddenly we get a CQC report, which was bad. Now, suddenly everybody's, jumping on it, thinking, wow, we knew that all along. Nothing's been said up to that point till we had that inspection. I think it's also fair to say, and I've had long conversations with our leader, Councillor Handley, from both our perspectives, Were we inundated with problems and issues and complaints from East Riding residents about the level of care they were receiving? Not at all. Not at all. There was nothing on the horizon to say that, we weren't fulfilling our duties because we were being inundated with complaints and problems. It just didn't happen, and still hasn't happened since the report was published. I take slight offence at saying I was trying to spin things and been spinning it. I've been quite open from the outset. We will take on the chin the findings of that CQC report, and we will respond accordingly, and we are responding accordingly. I want to clear up a bit of confusion talking about improvement boards and scrutiny. An improvement board is being established because that's what government expects us to do in these circumstances. And that improvement board is chaired by an independent chair and will carry us and work with us on this improvement thing going forward. Transformation programme was in place long before the CQC came in on the basis of the fact we knew there were issues within the service that needed looking at moving forward. So that was in train long before the CQC came in. So, I'm happy to apologise to anybody that feels I should apologise to them, but I don't think that the actions we're taking are the wrong ones. They're absolutely the right ones in the circumstances we're in at the moment. I think you'll find out overview management tomorrow a lot more details as to what is happening, what's going on. And all my commitment is I will be applying myself fully to this process of improvement over the months to come. And I hope collectively in this chamber, we can all work together on that improvement process. I think we see that. I've seen that in the opposition group. Most of the comments made have been positive and productive. I think that debate needs to continue in the future, not occasional cancers that might want to throw a little fit over things like this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Shepherd, please.
I'd like to thank Councillor Meredith for putting this proposal forward, and also Councillor Owen for his acceptance earlier on, and also your apology just now. I work with young people, and one of the things I would say is that nobody makes a mistake deliberately. We're talking about our residents here, and I look around this room and I'm looking at people who are in public service, and it makes me really proud to be a part of this group of people. We're going to get things wrong. We make mistakes. We hold our hands up, okay? And that's the way it is. Now, for me, leadership and accountability are key. When it goes wrong, you stand up, you take it on the chin, you accept it. There may be people below you that have got it wrong, but it's your responsibility. And I think that's been said today, and I thank you for that. I agree, there are people without grab rails that will suffer because we're not dealing with things quickly. But the key word in that sentence is we are dealing with things quickly. We have to move forward. Acceptance of responsibility has taken place. The failures have been acknowledged. The report is out. It's out for people to read. It's very, very clear. What we need to do is move forward now and work together on that. Now, for me, the key is communication. Ensuring all documents are clearly visible to everybody in this chamber. We've already had some issues this morning with not everything being shared that it should be shared to, with whom it should be shared. So that is really key. Openness. Openness with our communities, openness with our residents, making sure that going forward, as soon as we meet tomorrow, there are positives that we can talk to our residents about. Because at the end of the day, if we don't put a grab rail in time, that is an instant. If we don't teach someone how to use a white stick properly, that is an instant. And the word instant, if you unpack that, is a really, really scary thing. So let's move forward. We've accepted responsibility. We know that we've had a failure, but actually the key for us now is to gather together and ensure that it doesn't happen again.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Boynton, please.
Thank you, Chair. I don't think it's any surprise. I've spoke to colleagues, members across the floor, saying that I really thought the correct place for this to go would be to the Health and Wellbeing Scrutiny Committee. You've already got the committee set up there. You've got members who have sat on it and experienced within the health and social care system. I heard Councillor Whittle argue a very similar point at the Overview Management Committee. Although I am happy to be in the minority, and hence the motion hasn't come, and we're going down the CQC route. I must agree to some extent with Councillor Estelle that I very much believe in kind of 2 strikes and you're out, really. So you've had the warning, 1 strike. You've had the CQC report, 2 strikes. So I'm more than happy to work with you and try and work together and improve things for the better of our residents. But we are on that 3rd strike. We can't just each time go, oh, sorry, we aren't really doing much here. Something I do want to point out that I'm surprised hasn't come up. In the report, it points out about people waiting for DOLS assessments. So DOLS assessments, deprivation of liberty, people whose mental capacity is being questioned, and quite often not there in a care home and they're unable to leave. It says in the report that people's human rights have potentially been infringed here. So what we're saying is actually there's people in our care homes that have capacity, that could probably take care of themselves, but potentially we're not letting them able to leave those care homes. And that's something that's kind of been missed in this little debate, really. And there's an old social work saying, a gilded cage is still a cage. So no matter if your toilet's gold plated and you've got loads of money in your room, if you're unable to leave that room, it's still a cage. So therefore, I mean, to the leader, to Chief Executive Council, for me, that's something we've really got to be looking at extremely quickly. So, Chair, I will be voting for this motion. It's with a lot of regret that I vote for this motion. In the interest of not transparency, interest of working together, I vote for the motion. But again, like I've said, it is that 3rd strike. We have had 2 warnings. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Bibb, you're right to respond.
Thank you, Chair. I think this has been a good debate. I'm happy to see that the majority of councillors have put forward some very valid points and do seem happy to work together. I am very disappointed to see certain councillors have just used this as a political platform to try and score a few cheap points. I, for one, have confidence in the ability of this council, with Councillor Owen as the portfolio holder, to turn this situation around and deliver the level of social care that our residents deserve. To do this, though, it's essential that we all pull together and move forward as a team, whichever party we would represent. So I'll ask everyone to support Councillor Meredith's motion. It's really important that we do this.
Thank you. Councillor Hannah, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to clear a couple of things up, really. The first one is, under no circumstances was I laughing at this report. I'm the leader of this council. The last thing that I would be doing was laughing at such a report. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, I just want to bring to everybody's attention, it's been brought to the attention that we had a review, I think in 2021. We also had a review in 2023. And I just want to read a couple of things. And I'm really sorry, Councillor Nolan, that I've chose this, but I am going to send this round so everybody can read it. The strengths. Political support for adult social care is in abundance. There is strong cabinet leadership speaking with one voice along with a scrutiny committee with cross-party leadership making early progress. There is a shared political vision to drill down to find out what's important for the people of East Riding, understand quality, understand cost, and do what's right. There is also things that we need to put right. This is in 2023. So there's not a chance at all that the
Councillor- sorry,
leadership,
Just got a point of order off Councillor Boynton. What's your point of order, please, Councillor Boynton?
Thank you. Sorry to interrupt you. I do agree with Councillor Handy there. There was the peer review into the health OSC, which has that positive review, like you say.
Councillor Boynton, sorry, which part of the constitution are you? on this
I'm
point of
looking at
order,
my
please?
able colleagues here to point me out one. No, oh well.
So there's nothing wrong. Can I'll just go back to Councillor Handy, please.
You
Thank you,
can.
Councillor
I will
Boynton.
read
Thank
the
you.
constitution out of it off by heart next time.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. Councillor Handy, please.
Councillor Boynton, the only point that I want to make is the leadership of this council has not been sat in a corner knitting. Things have been put in place before the CQC came. We have the ADAS report that was done in 2023. We have been working through that, and so has this scrutiny committee. So I just want to make a point of that. And absolutely, I salute the people in this room that have actually not politicised this very, very difficult thing that we are having to deal with. However, I am appalled that some people have found it to be a political football. This is people's lives. This is our residents, and we should all be working as one going forward, because that's why every single one of you have got a cross next to your name, because your residents voted for you to do the right thing. So going forward, we should all work together. It's not just about health and social care. It's about the council and our residents. And I just want to make that point. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Jeffson, please.
you, Mr. Chairman, I'm not getting up cross this time. I just wanted to say to you all, I listened to the politics, and you know, as far as politics is concerned, I'm interested in residents. But I see today, as we went through all of the listening to each other and actually taking on board what people are saying, you are all going in the right direction for this. We are accepting that we have got something here that we have to do something about. I think the only thing that really upset me when I've been sat here very quietly is that I feel very sorry for Councillor Owen. He walked into this cabinet seat before me. Okay, I wasn't on it, but he was on cabinet, came in after I went on to cabinet. And he was really brave to take this on because this is a very big portfolio. And I think he has worked tremendously to look at everything, and he's got things going. I want to convince you all on this. He's there. He's dealing with officers. He's dealing with staff. He's a man to come to. So I feel really sorry today. And when I heard him apologise, I was really quite upset, because you know what? He's apologising for something that is everyone's fault, not just one person. And it felt a bit like that. So I'd like to say to you all, let's all try and work together like we said we were going to do. Can we not remember that we were all going to work together and see what we can do to bring the East Riding back where it belongs? But please don't take it out on one cabinet member, because he does not deserve it. Thank you.
Councillor Phoenix, please.
Yeah, as Chair of Health OSC, I would like to pledge my support to Councillor Owen. Obviously, I'm involved in the new committee as well. Some of our members have already expressed a desire to be part of that, and I will do everything I can to make sure we go from the bottom to the top. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Coltis, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just very quickly, just in the interests of transparency, care homes were mentioned, and I just wanted to be clear that this report didn't cover the service that care homes deliver to residents. And in fact, all of East Riding's care homes remain good or outstanding.
Thank you for that. Councillor Meredith, to close debate, please.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, members. Now, there's a lot to take in there, and I've tried to take notes as everybody spoke. Councillor Healy started by saying that the findings deserve our full attention. I couldn't agree more. Hence the committee in this motion to focus on this and this alone, and why I put it forward. And with the confusion that has come about because of my admittedly deliberately ambiguous phrasing, but not my ambiguous intention. I say this because I didn't want to mislead or misdirect. It was simply to ensure that health and well-being did not get overwhelmed. It was to ensure that a committee was formed so that there was no overwhelming, no overloading, and no diverting from other topics of significance and importance. Health and well-being have not sat idly by for the last 25 years since the committee was formed, nor will they in future. They have work to do. They need to do it. This is something else and this is something extra. So call it what you will, and I'm looking at learned colleagues, as Councillor Boynton did earlier, in Democratic Services this time. If there is a name you wish to describe this, to see a scrutiny committee formed, to look at this and this alone in isolation, in what is effectively a review panel format, call it what you will. But the reason for this motion here today is to see it get done, and to get done as quickly as is possible and underway, and endorsed and supported. Now, something else that I feel needs highlighting after the debate we've just been taking part in is that the leadership here is us. Every single person sat in this chamber, and Councillor Jefferson summed it up perfectly. So thank you. All councillors are leaders. All can contribute to scrutiny work programmes. All can bring motions. All can move amendments. All can make recommendations at committees. All have a say and a voice and a vote. All influence policies. And so anybody who does wish to point a finger also would need a mirror. Now, seeing this coming, therefore, is something that we each bear responsibility for, and the report tomorrow at Overview Management, as mentioned by Councillor Owen, lists actions that have been undertaken and performed many months before the CQC inspection even commenced. This has not come about because of one catastrophe. This has not come about because of negligence. Multiple and often even unrelated events in a perfect storm have all culminated in a position that cannot be accepted and must be addressed. But this is where we are. Actions that I must highlight have come from Cabinet and officers to start the improvement journey rolling, a year ago or more in some cases. And one of those examples, as Councillor Owen said, was an independent board made up of officers and partners, and that will be independently chaired, no less, was formed 2 months ago. These actions have not come about because of those that have spoken passionately here today, but because of those that have worked passionately behind the scenes for months and years, and have my faith in doing so for those still to come. And nobody cares about finger pointing or point scoring, not even most of us in here, let alone anybody outside. They care about improvements and they care about results. Councillor Lee covered this very point with aplomb, and Councillors Cousins and Shepherds both spoke evenly and admirably, and communication is absolutely and undoubtedly key. I used the words earlier: transparency, accountability, engagement. Councillor Shepherd, specifically communication. All very much branches from the same tree, Mr. Chairman. Now, I will move towards my conclusion by pointing out that that communication must be two-way, something admittedly I myself am not great at. So, Councillor Healy, I'll start where I finished. Councillor Healy, in his comments, stated earlier that we need to be committed and we need to pull in one direction on this one, and I couldn't agree more, and I will be echoing this sentiment as a result. No petulance, no politics, just progress. So thank you all whose words have illustrated how serious this is, how we must ensure improvements are delivered. And thank you for having a balanced and reasonable discussion and recognising the responsibility of this, whilst also the fact it is an emotive topic. As a carer myself, I can think of no higher priority than looking after those who need support to do the things that we take for granted on a day-to-day basis. And with that sentiment in mind, Mr. Chairman, I'll sit down and let you move towards the vote. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Yeah, been very emotive. So we're going to go to the vote, please. Green, red, blue. Yeah, that's carried, councillors. Thank you very much. That was an interesting debate. Right, we're going to have a quick break. I want you all back, sat down until I come in at past. past. Steady, you won't be going. Past, thank you. Thank you. Please be seated. Agenda item number 9, councillor Cassens, please.
Thank you, Chair. And for those watching on YouTube, I will read out the motion. Recognising that residents who experienced flooding in 2007 continue to face long-term impacts, including significant difficulties insuring their homes, depressed house values, and given the numerous successful flood alleviation measures implemented since 2007, Council therefore resolves to write to the Environment Agency expressing concern regarding continued long-term impact on the flooding on East Riding residents and communities, resulting from an out-of-date flood assessments, and requesting a reassessment of flood zones and how these can be undertaken across the East Riding with revised flood maps put in place. Now, I'd like our residents and fellow councillors, will remind them that the devastating effects of the flooding across our country in 2007. The impact of flooding was felt by many. Since that time, our council, we have rightly invested in actions to protect across the county to better protect our communities. In Cottingham, for example, where I am a councillor, winter storms in recent years have demonstrated the success of these initiatives and prevented further flooding. For example, the Cottingham and Eppleworth Valley attenuation of 9 lagoons that have been operational since 2019. COPFAS Phase 2 Cottingham Orchard Park attenuation scheme has also been completed. However, we must not lose sight of the longer term effects of flooding and how this remains a lasting impact on many of our residents. Some of our residents struggle to buy home insurance or pay an extortionate amount because of out-of-date flood assessments from the Environment Agency relating to our flood zones. I was reminded of this recently by a resident in Cottingham, and his home insurance was just a few pounds under £2,000, and only a couple of streets away, he had spoken to another resident who paid £300 for a very similar property and similar cover. There will be others in similar situations where just being able to get insurance remains a challenge. This motion looks to help residents across the East Riding who continue to face the longer term impacts of flooding caused by these out-of-date assessments. Like the Environment Agency assessment on flood zones and produce flood maps, these assessment maps provide an analysis on flooding risk and these decisions made by insurance companies, for example, when assessing homes for risk and cover. As I said earlier, this outdated flood information can therefore mean that residents face larger insurance problems or even getting cover at all. However, it's not just these issues. For example, house prices can remain artificially low and in some flooding areas because of an out-of-date assessments. Residents and developers also are impacted as they cannot use available land because of the sequential test in place following the 2007 events. This motion proposes that the East Riding writes to the Environment Agency requesting flood zones are reassessed and new flood maps produced. It is really important that these are kept up to date and that they take account of all good work that we have done to protect our communities against flooding. And in doing so, insurance companies will be able to see the best available flooding information and make the necessary actions. In summary, those residents and communities who continue to experience the longer term impacts, such as insurance cover, depressed values, and future land use, will benefit from a reassessment of our flood zones and updating our flood maps. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, councillor. Councillor West to second, please.
She's on. Yeah, I'd just like to welcome this motion, really. I think everybody in the chamber should be aware that we live in a very vulnerable part of the country. And especially since 2007, we've seen that. We should pay sort of testament to officers that have attracted huge amounts of investment into the local authority to sort of try and combat the flooding risk within our area. And it's right that we raise this sort of risk, especially this time of year when we're coming into the period where we're going to experience more rain, more water coming onto our land and our streets. We know that through the Humber 2100 group, which is made up of all the sort of statutory agencies and local authorities all the way down the Humber, that by 2046 we're expected that if we were to maintain the defences that we have now at their current level without any further investment, we will need approximately £1 billion worth of investment. That's just, pardon me, that's a standstill where we are now. So going forward, we'll need huge amounts of investment in the Humber, and not only to protect our residents, but the national infrastructure that we have that runs underneath our soil. We all know that we've got pipelines that carry all sorts of strategically important items for the country. So we're right to raise this. We're right to write to the Environment Agency and request that they do all they can to help us, our region and our national GDP to combat flooding, essentially. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor. Councillor Bayram, please.
Thank you, Chair. In my area, in Howden, the new developer there is putting a stream and big pools of water coming down it to hold back the water because they know it is in a flood area, and this is what they're doing. And maybe this is what all developers should do, is make provision for extra water just in case it floods. But it also makes the place look very pretty as well.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Duke, please.
Thank you, Chair. Having formed the Cottingham Flood Action Group straight after the floods of 2007 and taking many years to resolve the problems just in Cottingham regards my friends who were great experts in forming the results of the attenuation of guns. I've got to mention one deceased, a member of that, one Peter Kerr, who was a chartered electrical engineer, who was the brains behind that. I just humbly chaired it for about 8 years, but I learned a lot, obviously in the background of my building. But I found it fantastic that the council worked with us on that, and the EU money, as one of our friends has said it here, obviously helped, and the attenuation of guns extremely worked in 2023, where they were brimming, they were full, and they do hold something like 230,000 cubic meters collectively with CODFAST schemes and all the rest of it. So we know that we're going to have some more schemes. Just I think the council needs obviously to work, as my friend Kevin has said here, closely with the Environment Agency to remove to resolve the mapping issues in question. That certainly needs to be done. And also we need to copy in Emma Hardy, who is the flood minister. You need to work closely with Emma Hardy. She is in Hessel, she suffers from flooding issues. She is the flood minister. And I think whatever you do resolve here, you need to contact and create a bond with her. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. No other councillors to speak, so I'm going to call on Councillor Casson to close the debate, please.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to close the debate.
Thank you very much, Councillor. We'll go to the vote then, please. That is carried. Thank you very much. Next one, Councillor Shepherd, please.
Thank you, Chair, and members of the Council. I'd like to begin by sharing some fantastic news from Stamford Bridge. Recently, Stamford Bridge in Bloom achieved an outstanding result, awarded 5 gold roses and named overall winner for East Yorkshire in the Yorkshire in Bloom Roses Award. We're exceptionally proud of all the people, all the volunteers who took part in that. Thank you very much. This success reflects the incredible dedication of volunteers and the support of local organisations, businesses and residents. It's a true example of what community spirit can really achieve. Groups like Stamford Bridge in Bloom, alongside village halls and other community organisations, play a vital role in our rural communities. They enhance our environment, foster civic pride and encourage volunteers. However, These groups often face a practical challenge, managing green waste generated from their gardening and landscaping efforts. Currently, brown bin provision is limited to residential properties, understandably, leaving these community spaces without a sustainable solution. By extending brown bin access to village halls and recognised community groups, we can support environmental responsibility, increase our waste data flow rates, and improve the aesthetic appeal of our communities. This initiative aligns perfectly with our council's environmental objectives and demonstrates our commitment to empowering local communities. Just for residents at home. This council resolves to ask officers to ascertain the feasibility of providing brown bins garden waste collection to village halls and registered community groups such as In Bloom and urban gardeners where appropriate, and to develop criteria for eligibility and implementation. To ensure that any provision is supported by clear guidance on usage, collection schedules and responsibilities, and that it aligns with the council's wider waste management, budgetary, very important, and environmental objectives. To expect us as ward councillors to engage with eligible groups in their wards to promote the scheme and assist with its rollout, ensuring that local needs are reflected in its delivery, and to ensure that sufficient resource is allocated to support the administration and delivery of this initiative, including liaison with community groups and monitoring of uptake and impact, that ever important communication. This is not about replacing council staff. This work is already being done out in our communities. They work exceptionally hard, our council staff, with limited resources, and we need to support them. It's about supporting volunteers who already contribute thousands of hours to improving our communities. For a bit of financial context, and I had to limit myself here, I got quite excited by the numbers. Okay, within just 3 hours, a volunteer can deliver work equivalent to the cost of a brown bin to the East Riding of Yorkshire Council. And the additional cost of 1 extra bin on a round is almost zero. That is incredible value for our towns and villages. Finally, I want to thank Councillor Walker, Councillor Meredith, and the members of the Environment and Regeneration Overview and Scrutiny Subcommittee who have already recommended a similar point. This motion is about turning that recommendation into action, a practical, budget-conscious step that strengthens community pride and environmental stewardship across our East Riding. I commend this motion to the council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Walker, please.
Success for this motion will mean practical help and recognition for those in our communities who give their time and expertise to enhance our environment. This is wholly within our gift, no need to write to Westminster, to bring to the table our award-winning recycling service in direct support of locally focused endeavours. Mr. Chairman, this is a very fine motion, the epitome of working with our communities, and I am delighted to second it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Gill, please.
Thank you, Chair. Well, firstly, I'd like to thank grounds maintenance. They have been absolutely wonderful with our In Bloom. We've been doing it for 25 years now, and they've been very, very helpful. 3 years ago, I asked for 4 bins, brown bins, to be strategically placed in our community so that we could use them to as we were working in the area. And so we put them out, and we at the right time, and the bin men take them, and it's fantastic. So this has been in place for a while, and I have to praise them because the one particular officer and grounds maintenance is very, very helpful within Bloom. As I said, we've been doing it for 25 years now, and we have had, 4 goals recently, and, you know, the local volunteers, 31 of us, work really hard. We don't just get response from residents who really appreciate what we do. We actually get response from officers that live in the area and help us. So I'm just really wondering if we actually need a policy or whether we can just work with our officers to actually get this in place. I really do think the grounds maintenance men and women work really well for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor West, please.
Hi. Yeah, I mean, Councillor Gill's said what I was going to say in part. I think if you do contact the street scene team, they will try and help community groups when they need. But my real main point is that going forward next year, there's going to be a change in legislation. And the focus really is to try and up our recycling rate. And that essentially means that commingling in our green bins will hopefully end, and we'll all have weekly food waste collections, which that in turn means that those village halls at the moment that have got commercial bins, they'll have to get a brown bin as well. The upshot of that is it's cheaper to collect a brown bin than it is a green bin, mainly because it goes on weight. And generally speaking, the green waste is cheaper to collect than your general refuge. I think personally, this is something that probably needs to go to scrutiny. I'm not quite sure of the recommendation that was made at Environment and Regen, but I think it's quite a large motion and there's probably quite a lot of implications for the local authority. So I would recommend that we have it as a topic at Environment and Regen, and we go from there with it if possible.
Have you got a seconder for that? Councillor West. Councillor Bibber, seconder. We'll go straight to the vote without discussion then. Straight to go to scrutiny. Voting, obviously left, right. Yeah, that's going to scrutiny. Thank you very much. Yeah, hello. Yeah, sorry, I'm sorry, Councillor. I appreciate where you come from. Is it a point of order? Right. Right, Councillor, I do apologise. Obviously, I'm taking advice but it's already been, it's gone referred to scrutiny, so it's already gone. Sorry. Right. Right then, the next one then, Councillor Sean McMasters, please.
Thank you, Chair. Does the leader agree that delivering care services in rural setting increases the cost and logistical difficulties exponentially, and that government must ensure a fair funding formula is implemented to offset the impact on rural authorities, who often have higher than average levels of demand, alongside increased delivery costs and travel times that add difficulty to quality care being provided?
Thank you. Councillor Wilkinson, please.
Technical. Thank you for the question, which is quite relevant given we're in the cycle of compiling next year's budget and the 4-year budget projections at the moment. The Fair Funding Review is the government's most significant reform of local government funding for decades and is planned to take effect from the 1st of April next year. The Council supports fair and transparent funding reforms, but we do have significant concerns about the potential impact of these proposals. The reforms are weighted towards deprivation, but fail to consider rural deprivation. And I'll mention that a little later in my reply. But most significantly, this review is purely a redistribution of existing funding and does nothing to recognise that there is simply not enough money in the system overall. As my colleague, Councillor Meredith, would say, using euphemisms, rearranging the deck chairs whilst the ship is sinking is not what we expected and hoped for with central government. It is extremely disappointing that this government is not taking the opportunity to address the systematic underfunding of local government services despite its promises to do so. When central government passed responsibility for adult social care to local authorities, it did not pass on permanent funding. The increasing demand for adult and children's services, especially since COVID, has not been matched by increasing funding. If the government expects local authorities to continue to improve adult social care and children's services, they should pay what it costs and not just allow us to put a further 2% on local people's council tax burden. This council, as an example, is one of the 3 lowest funded councils for children's services from government in the country, and also has to carry forward tens of millions of deficit for the government's ring-fenced school funding. It is, however, important to remember that we do not know at the moment the full impact of the changes, but we are expecting it to lose around £20 million per annum. This is a substantial amount, and a loss of this magnitude threatens the sustainability of our services to residents, businesses and communities within the East Riding. I fully agree that providing care and other local services in rural and coastal areas like ours is harder and costs more than it is, and it's not been properly recognised that within this new funding formula. Rural councils like ours face unique challenges that urban areas simply don't have to contend with. Here in the East Riding, our geography means we travel long distances, smaller communities and fewer local providers, and it makes it more expensive to deliver the same services that urban areas would provide more easily and at a much lower cost. For example, home care in our most rural villages costs around 27% more than in towns because the carers have to travel longer distances between visits and it's harder to find local carers. Recruiting social workers is also tougher, and we often have to rely on expensive agency staff to make sure residents still get the support they need. Our response to the government's consultation on the review makes a strong case for fairer funding and for better recognition of the real challenges faced by rural and coastal councils. It is imperative that the government revisits these proposals and ensures that the funding formula takes into account the higher costs and logistical challenges faced by rural authorities. Only then can we ensure that quality care and essential services are provided to all our residents, regardless of where they live. We are continuing to take every opportunity to lobby for a fairer funding formula that reflects the true cost of delivering services in areas like ours, one that protects all our vital local services, including social care, and ensures every community across the East Riding gets the support it deserves.
Councillor Wilkinson, you're running out of time. Want an extension?
Just finishing. I urge each and every one to lobby their MPs and make the account rural deprivation and increase costs to ensure fair funding formula for all. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor McMaster, do you want a supplementary?
No, thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Councillor Cantrell, please.
Thank you, Chair. In view of increasing reports of children starting school still in nappies, which suggests that some families may not be receiving sufficient early years support. Does the leader agree that the council should be doing everything possible to support parents and children in the East Riding to ensure that every child is school ready?
Councillor Aiken to respond, please.
Thank you very much, Chairman, and thank you very much indeed, Councillor Cantrell. This is a really, really important issue and question. Ensuring that every child is school ready is one of the most fundamental responsibilities we share as a council. Reports of children starting school still in nappies are really concerning, and they highlight a wider issue. Some families may not be getting the early years support that they need. School readiness is not just about toilet training. It's about physical, emotional, and social development. When children start school without these foundations, it can affect their confidence and learning for literally years to come. That is why we must do everything possible to support parents from the very earliest stages. And here in East Riding, we have already taken significant steps. Our Health and Wellbeing Board has recently had a very deep dive on discussing this matter of supporting school readiness. And as a next step, a school readiness steering group is being established with an initial focus on the Best Start family hubs targeted from the DFE. The Best Start in Family Life hubs are designed to give families easy access to advice and practical help from pregnancy all the way through to school age. And we work closely with health visitors, early years providers, and voluntary organisations to make sure parents can get guidance on toilet training, speech and language, and emotional well-being, along with many, many other areas. But we know there is much more to do. And we're continuing to strengthen our early help offer, and we're lobbying central government for fairer funding, yet again, for early years and SEND provision. Because East Riding remains one of the worst funded authorities for public health, along with everything else. This funding gap matters because it limits the reach of services that help families prepare their children for school. This is not just a council issue, it's a community issue. We need to work with schools, health partners, and local organisations to make sure families know where to turn for support. And we need to listen to parents about the barriers which they feel they face, whether that's confidence, access to service, or cost. So yes, I absolutely agree. We should be doing everything possible to support parents and children. Every child deserves the best start in life, and we will keep striving to make that a reality here in the East Riding. And I will be sending out an email. I don't know whether it'll go out tonight or tomorrow, but it will give you once again the links that you can share with your communities to help guide them in the direction to get to an awful lot of local online learning that I've already spoken to this council about in previous debates. So thank you. Thank you for the question.
Councillor Cantrell, do you want a supplementary? Thank you very much. Councillor Casson, please.
Thank you, Chair. In order to access Police and Crime Commissioner funding, the local speed indicator devices, Cottingham Parish Council must first obtain agreement from the East Riding of Yorkshire Council. And then, given that they originally wrote to the council in February and continue to wait for a full response, would the leader agree with me that the process needs to be reviewed in order that local safety measures can be implemented at the earliest opportunity? Thank you, Chair.
Councillor West to reply, please.
Thought you did it for me. Thank you for the question. I think there's a bit of history that I can try and sort of outline within my answer. So the council has a robust and transparent process underpinned by both national guidance and our own criteria to ensure that SIDS, speed indicator devices are installed only in locations that are safe and appropriate for all road users and those responsible for installation. SIDS are not a prescribed traffic sign, and their use is carefully controlled to avoid confusion or misuse. When Cottingham Parish Council submitted their application, some of the initial suggested locations were found unsuitable following an engineer's assessment and site visit. In line with our process and published guidance, alternative locations were proposed and communicated back to the Parish Council. We have subsequently received a further email from the Parish Council on the 28th of last month with some further queries which the team are in the process of responding to. Once all outstanding issues are dealt with, they will issue the letter of approval required for the funding application under the Police and Crime Commissioner scheme. The process, as detailed in our guidance, is designed to balance the need for timely implementation of local safety measures with the imperative to ensure public safety and compliance with national standards. We continue to review and refine our procedures to ensure they remain effective and respond to local needs. If it's at all useful, I can ask the member services team to circulate amongst us all the guidance for implementation of the SIDS within our local authority. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Casson, do you want a supplementary?
Thank you, Councillor West. One of the problems we encountered was the weight of the SIDS on a lamppost is 13 kilos. We couldn't plug into a lamppost, so a battery was 13 kilos, which was 13 kilos over the weight for a lamppost. We then went for separate posts, but then we need a traffic order to get separate posts, and it's just rolled on and on. So if I could work closely with you in future, that would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Well.
Yeah, more than happy to do that. I know that in the wards and parishes that we represent, similar occurrences have happened really, and I think the one in particular I think of, they did indeed install a separate post for that provision. But yeah, I'll pick it up with the team and we'll see what we can do. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sutton, please.
Right, thank you, Chair. As it's November and it's National Care Leavers Month, can the leader provide an update on the council's progress in implementing the actions agreed in the November 2023 motion, specifically regarding recognising care experience as a protected characteristic and supporting care experienced young people into apprenticeships within the council? Thank you.
Councillor Aitken to reply, please.
Thank you very much indeed, Chairman, and thank you again, Councillor Sutton. It's another really important and poignant question. And as November is Care Leaver Month, it's a timely time to reflect on the progress made since the Council agreed that motion back in November 2023. And I want to be honest, there's still an awful lot more to do, as the Council is, how the Council is supporting our care experienced young people into employment. Our Learning, Skills and Workforce Development Service continues to provide tailored employment support to care leavers, and a package of assistance is in place that aligns with the opportunities identified in national guidelines. That said, we recognise, and I specifically recognise, that we can and should go further to embed this work even more consistently across the organisation. There have also been other positive developments. For example, the Housing Subcommittee of the Corporate Parenting Board has made significant progress in recognising care leavers as a priority cohort within our housing policy and strategy. And this is tangible. This is a tangible example of good practice that is already improving outcomes for our care experienced young people. So we're moving in the right direction. We just need to keep pushing. So in summary, we're on a journey. There is clear guidance and a growing body of good practice to help us strengthen our local approach and achieve the ambitions that we here in this chamber have all set out, that is there for our young people for whom we hold that corporate parenting responsibility. And I would welcome elected members' renewed commitment to this agenda and their continued support for the work of the Corporate Parenting Board as we move forward together. And I really do appreciate that. I noticed that I'm hoping that all of you have signed the pledge letter, the document that we've had out in the foyer, and we will be sharing that with our young people so that they understand that we are willing to commit as corporate leaders to be their parents and their families. So thank you, and thank you very much indeed, Councillor Sutton, for the question.
Thank you, Councillor Sutton. Do you want a supplementary?
Honourable portfolio holder for a reply. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Councillor Smith, please.
Thank you, Chair. Can the leader of the council assure me and residents that this local authority will fully support the work that the internal drainage boards do to manage water levels and help prevent flooding?
Thank you, Councillor West, to respond, please.
Thank you for the question. I can assure you that you and our residents that the local authority fully supports the vital work undertaken by internal drainage boards in managing water levels and reducing flood risk. As one of the most at-risk areas in the country for flooding, we recognise the essential role all risk management authorities play in protecting communities, infrastructure and the local environment. The Council has a strong track record of working directly with IDBs to deliver improvements and secure partnership funding for schemes that enhance resilience within the East Riding. These collaborative efforts have allowed us to carry out partnership studies that accelerate maintenance activities and enable major works such as improving pumping stations. Our commitment is reflected in the Council's local flood risk management strategy and ongoing initiatives across the East Riding, where IDBs are key partners. By continuing to collaborate with IDBs and other risk management authorities, we aim to strengthen governance, improve efficiency and safeguarding communities against the increasing challenges posed by climate change and extreme weather events. Importantly, we will work together to ensure that together we deliver value for money for public funds, maximise benefits while maintaining financial responsibility. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. We'd like a supplementary. Thank you.
Thank you for your response. I managed to attend my first internal drainage board meeting and it was more exciting than I expected. So my follow-up is really quite simple because I learned something quite shocking, and that is, why are East Riding Council looking to reduce the amount of funding that they put into the board through the levies they pay?
Councillor.
I'm unaware that the East Riding are trying to do that, and I don't think that's how the system works. So we can get official clarification from this. The local internal drainage board set their levy. They send that levy request as a demand to the East Riding to collect on behalf of the drainage boards. That then money is cascaded back from the local authority to the drainage boards. I guess in terms of, as I said in my answer, financial prudence, it's probably fair that as representatives that we are on those boards, that we make sure that the drainage boards are prudent with their money and offer value for the service that they offer. I mean, I don't know that. It's not something I've seen, but I can take that up privately. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Duke, please.
Thank you. Can I ask the council regards the how many of the new housing estates across the East Riding are experiencing drainage issues, problems with road marking, signage and play areas due to them not being signed off in a timely manner, and why is it taking so long to complete this process?
Councillor West, please.
Thank you. Thank you for the question. We have a large number of housing sites that are in various stages of the adoption process. There is no one reason why the adoption of roads or play spaces on some sites may take longer than others to resolve, but it is important to stress that the council must be satisfied that all outstanding issues are resolved and the work has been carried out to the adoptable standard before taking on any liability for those areas. If the council adopts poor standard assets and infrastructures, this costs the taxpayer money when this should be funded by the developer. If Councillor Duke is concerned about the adoption process of a particular site, officers will be more than happy to discuss that with him. Thank you. You, Chair.
Councillor Duke, would like a supplementary.
Yeah, I'll probably take you up on that offer. Yeah, it's just a problem, and I have discussed this probably with Councillor Meredith about certain sites in the Brough area where we're allegedly it's taken over 20 years. So, you know, when is it enough's enough in time? You must have to put a time limit on this. Me personally, I'm concerned about, in the old day, we used to.
Sorry, Councillor Joe, could you have a question, please?
Yeah, so the point is, the point is, when are you going to actually resolve the long-term issues? You know, when can you actually give us an answer to long-term problems?
Councillor West, please.
Yeah, more than happy to meet. Probably involve my colleague, Councillor Cultish, on the planning side, and we'll try and get some answers to your queries about your particular site.
Thank you, Councillor Christian White, please.
Thank you, Chair. Can the leader outline what activities the council will be taking part in during this year's White Ribbon campaign, running from the 25th of November to the 10th of December, and how members of the public and staff can get involved in supporting the message to end violence against women and girls?
Thank you, Councillor Healing, to reply.
Thank you for your question, Councillor. I'm just looking around the room quickly. I did when I came back from the break, and I'm really, really pleased to see all the white ribbons. Those that haven't got any, I'll be smacking your hands afterwards. Right, the council, myself and a lot of other councillors were really proud to support the White Ribbon campaign, and running from the 25th of November to the 10th of December, promoting the message to end violence against women and girls. This year, we're supporting the White Ribbon Vigil, which is on the 25th. People are gathering at Wednesday Market from 6 p.m. And I know Councillor Johnson has been heavily involved in this organisation. On the 29th of November, Withensea councillors Jackie and Ian Blackburn, and I shall be supporting them, are holding a white ribbon event, and officers from this authority are going to be there to support them too, which is great. There are walks, runs taking place. A white ribbon Christmas tree will be placed at the Minster. On the 10th of December, we'll host the East Riding Speaks Up at Bridge Spa. Again, I shall be there for most of the day, alongside a social media campaign using hashtag #ERSpeaksUp to encourage people to sign the pledge and share key messages. Staff and residents are being encouraged to wear ribbons, join awareness sessions, and take part in Communities in Motion bystander training. We're also offering guidance for schools, businesses, and voluntary groups on enabling white ribbon principles. A new campaign video featuring local ambassadors will also launch. That is well worth watching when it does hit the screens. Sharing powerful messages and inspiring action. Through these activities, we aim to create a culture where everyone feels empowered to speak up against violence towards women and young girls. And I please encourage you all to do that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Christian White, would you like a supplementary?
Please. I'm really pleased to hear about the council's involvement. Can the leader tell us how we are ensuring our partners, such as the police, health and voluntary sectors, are aligned with our white ribbon commitments, so we deliver a consistent message across the East Riding?
Partnership working is vital in delivering a consistent message. We're working with the police, health and voluntary sectors through our partnership forums, aligning social media messaging and promoting white ribbon web pages and a pledge. We've developed toolkits and resources for schools, businesses and the voluntary sector organisations, and partners are invited to join the VCSE White Ribbon Network and access free bystander training. By working together, we can strengthen the campaign's impact and make East Riding safe for everybody. Just before I finish, Chair, I'd just like to say we are aware of the huge numbers of ladies and girls that come forward that are suffering from abuse in one form or another. I did mention this at a meeting previously, but I want to reinforce it. If you're living in a neighbourhood, you're a next door neighbour, you hear those screams, you hear children screaming out, don't ignore it. Phone the police straight away. 999. And believe me, it happens behind closed doors. And I know Councillor Johnson would totally agree with me on that. So thank you. I'll finish there.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Healy, please.
Would the portfolio holder join me in thanking officers in adult social care and democratic services for their time last Thursday in delivering the highly informative adult social care walk through the pathways event to members of this council. And given the importance of this event in light of the recent CQC report, would he, like me, recommend that all members take advantage of the opportunities to learn more about adult social care through events such as this?
Councillor Owen to respond, please.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Healy. Adult social care, as we know, provides essential and statutory services that touch the lives of all our residents and their families. It is our responsibility to ensure that every member, our wider directorate, officers and the residents of East Riding understand and are aware of the breadth and depth of these services. And especially in light of the recent CQC report, I strongly encourage all members to take advantage of future opportunities to learn more about adult social care through events such as this. These sessions are invaluable in helping us better serve our communities and make informed decisions that improve outcomes for those who rely on these services. The recent event, although not as well attended as hoped, was well received by those who did attend. I've discussed with our Executive Director and we will attempt to promote much better these events in the future. So please look out for upcoming engagement opportunities, connect with them as they are announced, because your participation is key to ensuring we continue to deliver the highest standards of care and support across the East Riding. And to those that were involved and helped organise the event last week, thank you once again to all those involved for your dedication and professionalism. Thank you.
Councillor Hill would like a supplementary.
In an attempt to end this question time on a lighter note, I'd like to ask this. 14 out of 67 councillors attended the event, with 50% of the attendees coming from one particular political group. Can he guess which one it is?
Councillor Owen.
I think I can guess, but I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, on the light note, right then. So that's it for that one. So agenda item number 11, questions and procedure rule, supplementary questions. There are no outside body questions. So we're going to agenda item 12, amendments to the Constitution. I move that the amendments to the Constitution as detailed in Appendix 1 of the report be approved. To second, Vice Chairman.
I beg to second, Chair.
Since nobody else wants to talk about it, we'll go straight to the vote, please. That is carried. Thank you very much. Agenda item 13 to move. I move that the details of the following be received and approved and recommended that the allocation of seats on the ordinary committees of the council are set out in section 3 of the report be approved. Second, Vice Chairman.
Beg to second, Chair.
Thank you very much. Nobody wants to ask a question. We'll go to the vote, please. Right, that's carried. That brings us to the end of today's meeting. Again, thank you all very much, councillors. You've been absolutely fantastic, and we will see you at the next one. Be safe.